everybody, I am Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. And I have with me a survivor of the federal prison system, and a gentleman that's no stranger to the MDCs of the country, having visited many of them. And
Yes.
We're going to have some fun today, folks. We're going to say hi to some people first here because it's what we do. Let's see who we got, shall we? Shelly Kelly, good to see you. Diane, how are you? Ann Bowman, Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. David Clark, good to see you. Caroline in Canada. Glad you're here. Shelly Kelly, thanks for everything you do. Ann Bowman. Hey, Lynn. Hey, Snake and Carnosol. Just Joan. Caitlin. Miss Tiny Tornado. Well, that's a good one, isn't it? I like that.
Yeah.
I dig that. Tiny Liberty. Diane, Bobby Jean. Good to have you here. Yeah. Bill. Glad to have you here, Bill. There's Murph. Murph, good to have you. Sweet Liberty. Kestrel 42. Hello, Lisa Trimble. Cassandra. Yeah, in Carnosol. Yep.
Carnosol, that's dope. Hey,
Corn Pope.
Howdy ho.
Not to be confused with Corn Pop. You do know Corn Pop, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
You know, I don't care what political party you're on. That was just freaking funny. I'm sorry, it really was. The Corn Pop thing was the best. He was a bad man. Carried 2 razors. DP in Tennessee. Don Van, how are you? Hello, Meredith Flynn. Good to have you here. Glad that you are here. Hey, Pajama Pixie. From jet setting the country. She can stop in and say hello. Good to have you here. I'm so happy that you're out and about. Christy Hughes. Jennifer. I know, right? Well, she didn't used to, but she the boat kind of got her. She said the boat kind of got her out and about and running into people and connection and really getting into it. And she's a great story.
Is that how she was walking like that?
You know, Lori Abs, good to see you. It's exactly how she was doing. Yeah, with the good kicks too. Sherry LeBron. Yeah, you got both of us. Hey, Heather. Mary E. Barons-Oni. I'm glad you're here. Lori Hart is here. Miss Sunrise Dawn, True Crime Nut. Let's see here. We're getting close. Kathy Arbor. I'm glad you're here, Kathy. Kathy digs prison contents. This is going to be a fun one for you. We're going to go over some of the misconceptions, people. There are the amount of BS, and it occurred to us when we were shooting the breeze the way 2 guys who have done time are likely to do. And I'll preface with this. There's a report that's come out recently, and there's one of the most popular podcasts in the Diddyverse is from the Daily Mail. It's a great host over there, but she's been talking about this particular subject, and she had a woman on that was talking about how they did not have heat in MDC Brooklyn for 5 days. Guys in there were freezing, right? Temperatures were bad, and they're not heating the facility. You're in a concrete box, and that does sound like cruel and unusual punishment, doesn't it, Casper?
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is only happening at MDC Brooklyn. Casper and I have both been to the FCI at Terre Haute.
Anywhere. Yeah. There's no heat anywhere.
And I'll tell you something. The FCI at Terre Haute, send me to MDC Brooklyn. I mean, as far as facility goes, like being warm or whatever, I'll take MDC Brooklyn today, right?
But those, those little heating things down at the foot of the cell, at Terre Haute.
Yep.
Man, on a good day, you could warm up a bagel on those.
You could,
which is crazy, but it wouldn't warm up the cell. But in that little area, you could heat up a bagel on those. They used to do it all the time.
You could also speed up a bag of wine, but it did not help. It did not help heat the room at all. You could get a batch of wine to blow off in about half of the time if you just tucked it up against that heater. At Lewisburg, this is the deal at Lewisburg. So they do heat the water because they have to, right? So you have water pipes. Hold on one second. Hello, may I help you?
Duffy's Tavern.
I am live, but go ahead. Duffy's Tavern. Go ahead. No, tell me. What?
Hey, Roberta.
Hold on one second. People, bear with me. Casper, tell a story.
Okay. So Tommy and I were talking earlier, and I just think it's so crazy how everyone just paints out how crazy everyone is talking about how crazy Diddy's environment is, and like the violence and what he's going through, or just the conditions when really he's, like Tommy said, you would want to be, if anywhere, at an MDC or an FDC, which one's a metropolitan detention center, the other one's a federal detention center. And man, that's some of the best time. Yeah, you don't have a yard, you don't have programs, but you don't have to work. You don't have to, and if you're a get high like we used to be, you don't have to do anything but, you know, get high. And so man, I would kill to be at one of those places. Actually, people can go from the prison and go work at the MDC. You can put in to be like an orderly. They call it something else though. I can't remember. It's called a cadre unit, where so say like I'm sick of the prison and I got clear conduct, I could go work at those places. But anyway, it's a lot of pre-trial, a lot of people bringing in stuff, and I don't know, it's pretty lax. It's really nothing to be at an MDC.
Yeah, the thing with MDCs are, right, that you're going to be, this is a county jail for all intents and purposes. Now, it looks exactly like every other federal prison, and they're on the same menu and all that. But the people there, Casper, help me out with this one if you can. Tell everybody the difference between what you're going to get in a cellmate or a pod or a unit or a yard at, say, Terre Haute or any other prison in the BOP, Black Canyon, compared to an MDC.
What you're going to get as a type of person? Yeah,
because you definitely run into it's apples and oranges between what you're going to see at an MDC versus what you're going to see.
Yeah. They're going to mix races. No one's on any political time. There's, I've had at those places, I've had a Latin king as a cellie, and in prison that would never happen, ever. There's people fighting their cases, so they're entertaining. I had something else to say about that, but I don't know. It is apples and oranges, and this the environment. It's not. There'll be fights over TVs and stuff like that, or two cellies will get in an argument. But one of the, I think the worst things is about an MDC and an FDC is that you are getting those dudes that have never been to jail, that might not ever even make it to a prison, that are just there, and they're whining. Everyone whines about everything.
They all want to talk about their case, and it's probably the only place I've ever been, Casper, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can protect somebody in an MDC, right? You can. They're going to have an entire unit full of soft dudes that have proven, maybe not even the first time through, maybe it's their second time through, or their third time through, but they're going to have a unit full of people that I don't care what you do, no one in that unit is going to do anything violent. Like you can walk in and go, you're living with a black dude, you're living with a white dude, you're living, and everybody's just going to go, okay, go grab their stuff. It is a very different environment. And there's a lot of people who keep talking about how he's not going to have any problem in prison, right? Diddy will be fine. He's been in here for 2 months. He's got no blowback. He's doing fine. The people at some of the really big networks, the huge ones. Hey, no, you're completely good. That was absolutely legit.
Hi, Reese.
That was one of those things that needed to happen, Reese. So I'm not, and I'm sure we're going to tell that story, but we just went to it right now. We got.
And the cool thing is too is that with a lot of those guys, you can. Everyone's really malleable, and you can manipulate everybody. Guys like us go in there. It's just like, okay, this is going to be cool. This is going to be fun.
I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And you can always look around the room and tell the people that have done time when they're sitting in there. People joke about this. If you're a true crime aficionado, I can tell you a secret, right? It's a pretty easy one. If you're watching a true crime video and they're doing that, the Reed technique where they're going to leave the guy alone for the first 30 minutes, if he falls asleep in the first 3, he's guilty, right? That for real, because you've been living like this. Your vagus nerve has been going for maybe a year, maybe 5, depending on how long the runner is. And all of a sudden they put the handcuffs on and you go, oh my God. Right.
And you know what, if you play back every single tape of me ever going to jail, like getting arrested for the first time, I promise you, I'm asleep. I'm like, where's that roll of toilet paper? I get that roll of toilet paper. And I just, they're like, hey, you bro. Everyone's gone. I'm the last one there. What the hell? All right, cool. We're out of here.
No, that's real talk. They call it the perp nap. And it's because, they're as bad as it is. It's that thing you've been waiting for to happen for so long just happened. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the end of the world, but you're like, kind of knew this one was coming, right? It's, to me, it's one of the weirdest things about being about being free is knowing that that's never going to happen again. Because I lived, and I know you did. You lived for 25 years waiting for that moment where they're going to come and they're going to grab you and they're going to arrest you, and then this is all going to come to an end. And you'll get that first really good nap. It's one of those things that all of a sudden you'll start feeling
oh, it's
good
the best sleep. It's the best sleep.
It is. It's legitimately the best sleep. So I was telling Casper before we went live, when I got to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania for the special management unit, I hit the yard in February, right? And the night I hit the yard, it snowed. So I was on the time I was in the top bunk. That only lasted 2 days. We ended up switching, but I was on the top bunk that night. And I hopped down for breakfast and I landed in 3 inches of snow because there wasn't a window in this prison. There are bars there, but the windows have been broken out years ago because the fellas want to pass stuff from one cell to the next. And you can lower something out the window and the guy can pull it in and you can be passing contraband. And when you lock an inmate in a cell, the first thing he's going to do is bust that window out because you're not going to give him an opportunity to get dope outside of his hallway. Well, what if downstairs has the dope? Right? They're going to break that window or they're going to go through the toilet. And so when I was in Lewisburg, there was no heat. Like you saw your breath 24/7. If it was cold outside, your breath was showing, you know, it was just ugly. I know everybody thinks that he's in a really horrific prison. And the only difference between an MDC and any other place is that honestly, normally it's a little bit softer on politics. And the word politics in prison is almost synonymous with racism. I mean, it's not completely, but it's pretty close. Yeah. It's that you stick with your own race, and they have rules that, like, if a friend of yours is a black dude and he's drinking a coffee and you're coughing and you go, hey, let me get a sip of that, and you take a sip off of that coffee cup, that's the end of your career, right?
Yeah. I remember one time the West Coast president of the Hells Angels was leaving. He got pretrial release, which was, I don't even know how he did that, but you know, they had a lot of lawyers on their side. Anyway, we had this big burrito spread, and his pinochle partner was this black dude from Chicago. And you know, we had the big going away spread, and me and my comrades are standing there, and he's like, I can't remember the dude's name, but he's like, hey, you know, I don't want to say anything stereotypical, but yeah, hey, come on over there. And we all just like sat there. It was like, oh, man, everyone sets their burritos down, but we had to. It wasn't, I would eat a burrito. I'd take a bite right after that fool, you know what I mean? In real life. But yeah.
Well, I was in the state
about it all the time.
When I was in the state was a lot different for me than the feds. I did my state rep in Nevada, and it was prison land. The cells were warm in the winter. They were air conditioned in the summer. It was lovely. You know, it was absolutely lovely. But the big thing is everybody could smoke. And you never took shorts off of a different race. You couldn't do any of that thing. And I remember walking into a cell, and I was homeboys with the dude. Normally, you don't just sort of barge into a guy's cell, but I was homeboys with this dude. And I went walking into the cell, and there was about 4 dudes in there who were really fond of the Swazis. You know what I mean? Slung back, and 1 black dude, but they were passing. Right? They were passing the pipe around because what they were hitting, you weren't getting on the yard. And I walked in and went, oh, sorry, turned around and walked out. And the black dude didn't give a crap, but the white dudes came up to me one at a time like, hey, dude, you know, what you walked in on. And I'm like, yeah, I already told everybody, don't trip, dude. The entire yard knows. And I told everybody. NSP, yeah, I did actually visit NSP. But I was talking about NNCC at that point. Northern Nevada Correctional Center was soft. NSP was a little tougher.
They have a high desert in Nevada too, right?
They do have a high desert in Nevada. And the high desert in Nevada, I've never been to, but it is no joke. It is, that's a yard that goes hard all the time. They did about 2.5 years on lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah. You know why, though? It was very typical kind of Fed stuff where you had a couple of organizations beefing, and virtually every single time they popped the cell doors, they stabbed each other. You know what I mean? You know how those runs that you get on where it's like, you honestly have people politicking just to go to store, right?
Just to go to store, make one
score. We're going to get through this, right? So that we can get to store and everybody can get coffee. And the second we get that coffee, okay, you know, get your supplies, then we're going to go back to war. As crazy as it sounds, that stuff goes off. Thank you, Snake. Toward my next airline, I need one. I miss Bug Trussell already. I wanted to say this too. Or I should say, I wanted to ask this. What was the nastiest facility? Because I'm comparing to what they're talking about, right? As far as the meals that he got for Christmas and Thanksgiving, it's a national menu, right? He's not being abused, nor when people went, oh man, did you hear he got a turkey roll and he got this? Anything you heard that this fool got, everyone else got. Did you ever see anybody taken care of in the feds because they were famous? Honestly?
No,
Nothing.
nope, never. Not, I mean, they might, not taken care of, care of.
Like their people might try to style them out occasionally. Like if it's a famous guy with good paperwork, like his people might take care of him. We had a guy that was a representative of that red organization when we were at Black Canyon, and he got treated like a king by all of his people. But the BOP doesn't give a crap if you're royalty. No. I promise you, Diddy isn't getting any treatment that is special of any kind.
Yeah, only a Black Hand guy did I ever see gets really special treatment from the BOP. But he was a manager, you know. They would send him from USP to USP to USP, and but you know, I think I told that on Night Yard where I seen a warden bring him 2 bags of groceries from the streets, you know. Yeah. Bam, here you go, you know. But that's I've never seen that. But that was just because, you know, they owed him favors because he kept the acuity really low on the yard.
Yeah. Yep. I have a problem with that. I've talked about this with you in the past. In fact, we talked about it when we were locked up together. There are certain individuals that talk to the authorities every single day. And there are people will go, oh, they're keeping the yard smooth. I was at a yard where a guy came back and he had tons of cash, right? Like he had stacks this high of flat books. It was just insane. The flat books being stamps that are worth about $7 a piece. You can count them out, $7, $8 depending on the yard. And this guy had probably $8 grand. You know what I mean? Like a lot, and he's giving it out to all the white boys. And dudes were like, "What's up, bro? Hit the lottery or what?" And he goes, "Nah, man, I'm working the warden." I told him that there's a bunch of drama going on and that the white boys had to pay it off. So they're literally, to keep this from breaking off into a riot or whatever, they were greasing the skids. And I'm like dumb as a brick. I'm sitting there playing cards. I was like, "Man, what do you got to do back to pay that back? Huh?" Like that's tough. And everybody in the room looked at me like, "Dude, what are you doing? Don't say things like that." But you know that's the truth. If they're giving you $8 grand in flat books that they confiscated, what are they asking back from you? I wouldn't want to be in that position.
They're not just giving it to you. Yeah, that's for sure. The only time I got a bag of stamps, and they weren't flat books, but they were just, you know, the little stacks, was I filed a what are those claims for your property? It's not at BP.
Yeah. No. For your property? No, that's just your property sheet. Just property sheet on the top.
But yeah, so they lost a bunch of my property for
BP8, BP9, BP10 starts at a BP8.
Did I have to do the BP system to get that? Yes. Yeah, so anyway, I filed all those, and finally my case manager just called me down, and he just like handed me this bag. He's like, "How much do you think your stuff was worth?" I don't know. I was like, "Oh, about $800," and he gave me about $500 in stamps in a bag. Yeah.
That's insane, isn't it? I mean, but they do this crap all the time, and they'll go the other direction too. I think I told you the story, but when I got stabbed at Victorville, the guy came in and he takes his laptop and he turns it around and he shows it to me. And the guy that stabbed me was a guy from who hangs out on the southern part of the state. That they called Loco. And he's like, "Here he is. Look, I'm looking at him." And I go, "Well, then you don't need me, right? What do you need me for? If you got it on video, like I'm not going to go in and testify against this dude because I'll get killed. I won't be able to walk another yard. That's not how we do it, right?" Yeah. And he goes, "Well, because it doesn't really show. It's obvious." He goes like this with his hand, and you see me double over, but you don't see a weapon. You don't see anything. And I said, he smacked me in my junk like he does this crap in the unit. So and the cop looked at me and goes, "When you leave this room, I'm throwing out your MP3 player. I'm throwing out your radio. I'm throwing out your pictures." I mean, just like I almost had to tip my hat. You know what I mean? Like they do that anyway, but I never had anybody tell me. Right? You know, I was downright impressed. He's like, "I'm throwing your shit out the second you walk out this." And the funniest part of that story is when I got stabbed, I got life flighted off the yard. And by way of full disclosure, I was using pretty heavy, so I had just fixed that morning anyway. And then I went there and got 3 shots of Dilaudid. Right? They gave me 3 different doses of Dilaudid while they were working on my stomach. And when they brought me back, it was the middle of the night, and SIS came up to interrogate me in the middle of the night, and I went like this. Wham! Head on the table, just nodded the hell out. right in the middle of the first question, I just went
Yeah.
down because he was like, "We're going to do this right now." I'm like, "I'm tired as hell." He's like, "I don't care." And I passed out on the table. He's like, "We'll do this in the morning." But he threw out all of my stuff, man. He literally just tossed it out. What was the coldest facility you were ever in the feds?
Coldest. I mean, aside from like just the stainless steel refrigerators while going to court,
Right.
Because those were always cold.
The worst. They don't heat those at all.
I would say it was Terre Haute.
Me too.
Because I wasn't at Hazleton and during the winter. But I heard it got pretty cold up there because it's kind of on a mountain. Not kind of, it is. And yeah.
I did. So they brought me in.
Sure.
Thank you so much. No, you're good. They brought me in the day of.
Ooh, I want coffee.
Yeah, Johnny's a good man. They brought me on to see it. You know what? Watch. I almost dropped it. They came in and I'm sitting there and I had a meeting with my counselor who said, because of your brain diagnosis, we're going to send you to Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know anybody that's ever come back from Louisville, Kentucky. Every inmate I've ever seen go to Louisville never came back, right? And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I'm like, yeah, I got 1.5 years, man. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need any help from Louisville, man. I'll get my brain worked on when I leave here. Like, I'm not having anybody touch my brain in the feds. And they were like, well, you need to sign a statement saying you're refusing medical transport. So I signed this piece of paper, refusing medical transport. And I go back to the unit, I'm playing cards, everything's groovy. And they come in and they're like, hey, we need to talk to you real quick. And I go, okay. And I go walking up and I'm like, I put my hands behind my back. I assume I'm getting lugged. You know what I mean? I put my hands behind my back. He goes, oh, no, you're good. I said, all right. And we're walking down to medical. And I go in and this the shrink says, why are you refusing our help? I go, oh, it's not that. I said, I don't trust you. It's got nothing to do with help. I'm afraid you're going to do a biopsy or kill me or something. Like, I'm not doing this, man. Yeah. And she goes, oh, okay. And she leaves the room and they put you in a holding room before people get there. Well, I'm just sitting in the bench on the holding room waiting to have the transport come get me. And they open the door and throw in the Barney Rubble suit. And I went, I'm not putting that on. And he goes, trust me, you're putting that on. I go, trust me, I'm not, man. I'm like, you ain't got enough men to get this. And they do. They have enough men. That magic number turned out to be 6, but they had enough men. They had enough men to rip my clothing off and leave me in on the floor with the option of standing there naked for the rest of my sentence or putting on that dress. And I'm not joking, dude. I stood there naked for probably 3 hours. Like it was a battle of wills.
You had to stand on it. Yeah.
But it was so flipping cold, man. And let's be really honest, right? We're an adult audience. When it's really, really, really cold, you're not having your best day as a guy anyway. You know what I mean?
No.
It's one of those things. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Like Elaine said on Seinfeld, she's like, I don't know how you guys live with those things.
Right? They're no fun. They're no fun. If you do good time at MDC, does it go towards prison good days if you're convicted? You betcha. Yeah. Absolutely. That's not dead time. Once you plead guilty, all of the time that you did and you got good time for, but Diddy ain't getting any good time for the time he's done there, right? He has 8 counts that we know of. He has 8 counts of using somebody's phone without permission for back number. That's going to be 7 days loss of good time on each of those. That's 56 days, right? That's a year. Yep. There's your year of good time. He's only going to be there a year. So Diddy has already lost the good time that he would have unless MDC doesn't do paperwork. Sometimes you get places that just go, yeah, I'm not even going to, because it's a pain in their butt to do all of the paperwork required to write that up. But he's losing good time. That's just one. Allegedly, he's also got some escape plans that were in that notebook that they break you off with that. Like you're losing a lot of good time if you get caught with any of that stuff. Like your jump rope, you asshat. Do you remember your jump rope?
Yeah.
Dude, I lost a month of good time for your jump rope.
I'm sorry.
My fault. I could have got rid of it. You left it. I was on the wall with that thing, dude.
I know.
Casper made a jump rope, right?
Yeah.
However, a jump rope looks an awful lot like the kind of rope you might climb out of a window.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or climb out there. Oh, that's what they charged you with, right?
They charged me with an escape tool.
That's right. You have the best memory, man. Yeah.
I got charged. And all I was doing was jumping rope with that.
Yeah. It was escape tools, man. Boy, we were in there for a long time together.
Yeah, we did a lot. We did a lot of time. I was figuring it out the other day. Well, if you remember, I was journaling then, right? It was more like, I would write every day to my ex-wife, and And it was, I just did a lot. I wrote down so much of everything that happened. Like I really kept track of all of that. And yeah, we did about 7 months together. That's about what we pulled there.
24-hour lockdown, really.
24/7 and for 7 months is like doing 6 years with a dude.
Yeah, that's so crazy, man. I don't think we got in an argument not one time.
No, we never had a harsh word.
I can't say that about any other cellie I've ever had in the shoe. And I've done a lot of shoe time. Yeah.
Even when it was harsh words, it was funny as hell. Because I like, again, we're all adults, right? And there's two kinds of guys in the joint. One flushes flatulence. You hop down, you sit on the toilet, and you continue to flush until all of that smell might get sucked out of the cell. And there are guys that are vicious about this. Like, don't do that, and they're going to kill you. So when I got there, I said to Casper, I'm like, what are your views on this? He goes, I'm not getting off my bed to do that. He's like, it's not going to happen. So you do what you do, but I'm not jumping off the bed to do that. I said, all right. And I remember working out one day, and you went, hey, how about a warning, bro? You were like, that was the worst thing that ever happened in my life. He's like, I just got smacked in the head with a stink bat.
The stink bat.
Oh, God. Did I ever tell you my daughter taught college classes at Texas Department of Corrections, Huntsville? New release came to live with us while he got settled. Loved him like a family. You know what? Huntsville ain't no joke. The P farm in Huntsville. I know
that's where they unalive them, right? That's where they
is. Yep. That ain't no joke. Huntsville's a real prison town right there, man. What's wrong with my brain? Well, is Reese here? Because she could probably tick off a few things. That
I'm gonna go grab some coffee real fast.
Do that. Do that. Yep. I can cover this for a sec. I used to ski a lot, and I used to get upside down on skis a lot. You know who he looks like in that picture? Sir Bob Geldof from the Boomtown Rats. Tell me he does not look like Bob Geldof from the Boomtown Rats. Anyway, so I took a lot of shots to the head, and when I pass away, they will slice my brain into really thin pieces, and they will call it chronic traumatic encephalopathy. But you can't diagnose somebody with chronic traumatic encephalopathy while they're alive. It's oddly enough, it's one of those things that you have to do these really thin slices of the brain and whatever. But the number of concussions that I've had is absolutely frightening. It's see, he does look like Geldof. See that? Everyone's in agreement. He looks exactly like Bob. I don't like Mondays. Great tune. You know something? I met Bob Geldof. He worked with one of my former business partners doing Live Aid. And I ended up getting to meet, Sir Bob Geldof. See, someone says I thought that too. This is gaining traction. Tethered. That is a good term. Tethered to an idiot? Yes. See that? Missy Ann's got it too. Right? This is a popular. So someone said earlier, fish through the toilets. Literally what you do is you make what's called a line. And a line is you're going to take something like a towel and you're going to take it apart. And you're going to take it apart without breaking the strings that made it, right? Because when you make a towel, what you're doing is you've got a bunch of strings going in one direction and you've got a bunch of strings going in the other direction, obviously, right? And you weave it together. Inmates take it apart, and then we make the string a lot stronger by spinning the string in one direction and then spinning it in the other after folding it on top of itself. It's how real stringing and real rope is made. And Casper made one about that thick that I used to use as a jump rope, which I got an escape charge for. But you can take that line, right, and attach something like 2 or 3 plastic sporks to it. And then you flush that down the toilet. And as it's going down through the pipes, the guy below you is doing the same thing. And you're trying to get your forks caught in the pipe. And then he's going to pull your line into his cell. Sorry. A lot of really rugged toilet fishing. Oh. And then you pull it through. It's pretty simple stuff, really.
Yeah.
That's one of the grossest things. Oh, the grossest things. When I was running the sports book at Lewisburg, I had all 3 floors of J Block. I was booking to all 3 floors big time. So I had a rep for me on the floor above me and a rep on the floor below me who took in all the bets and did all that. But they'd have to get me all of the sports tickets before the games went off. And we had to do it through the toilet. And I can't tell you how many times, man, I'm trying to pull this thing in. It's like 3 minutes before kickoff. And it's like, I'm not taking these bets if they're not in my cell before then, because you know how people are. It was awful, man. Those toilets can flush humans. Casper, you want to comment on that one? Because that's funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you're thinking of a story that I'm supposed to remember, but I do
Just
have a
in
lot.
general.
Yeah, in general. Put it this way, I was in a county jail up in Kalispell, Montana one time, and the captain of the jail came in and had like this little monitor with some videotape on it, and he's showing us this video, and it's down at the dam in the city dam, and it's this video, and all you see is blue, and over the screen. I mean, and it's a lot of blue, and it was all of we wore blue sweats.
Yep.
And everyone was cutting them up and flushing them down the toilet to get new ones. So they would buy new ones because they were all, bare thin and I mean, we easily flush. Oh, and I do have another quick, I guess, one time I wanted a new mattress. I don't know if that was with you or not, but it was, and they wouldn't bring me one. They wouldn't bring me a mattress. So I cut my mattress up and flushed it down the toilet piece by piece. Yep. And in the morning when the lieutenant came, I was like, "Hey man, they took my mattress last night to give me a new one, and they never brought it back." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I've been asking for weeks. And he's like, "Who did that?" And I was like, "Oh, so and so." And he's like, "All right, dude." He investigated that for like 3 days, dude. Yeah. It didn't quite work out how I thought it was going to work out. I mean, I did get a new mattress eventually, but for 3 days while he investigated that, and he was like, because I guess they kept a pretty tight count on mattresses up there in the shoe. And he's like, "No, we're missing a mattress. I don't know where it went. Maybe it went down that toilet." He's like, I don't know how that could have happened, but you got a mattress coming today. I was like, yes, but I kind of burnt myself for 3 days. But yeah, I flushed an entire mattress down that toilet.
No problem. No problem. I got liquored up. We were making moonshine, and I don't drink the stuff. I sell the stuff, like moonshine in particular. I'll drink wine in prison, but moonshine, I know what that stuff's doing.
It's kind of legs.
I pretty much killed a black dude selling it to him. Like over the course of about 6 months, his eyes turned to yellow, and they had to remove him from the yard. I'm not being wise, and I kept saying to him, "Dude, man, back off of it." But he just kept buying it. It's the nastiest. That moonshine is the nastiest stuff in the entire world. But we got put on lockdown. I had right behind my locker, I had a hole in the wall. Right, somebody had broke through. There was a great piece of metal that they had put the 4 little posts on to hold in place, and the top 2 weren't connected. So if you just went like this, it would slide all the way up. It was perfect. It was the coolest thing in the world, and there was a hole behind it in the wall. So I had like 5 honey bears back there, 5 pints. My cellmate says, "Let's just drink one of those pints." We had been like 3 or 4 days locked down. He's like, "Come on, we got a bunch of them. I'm not going to drink all these, blah, blah, blah."
I've been there so many times.
So we drank them all, right? We just got polluted. Yeah. But he said to me, "You want to see something really funny?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he took a blanket, he ripped it about this wide, and he put it in the toilet and hit flush, and it went disappeared, gone, right? And I just started laughing. And before the night was over, we had taken our sheets and ripped them into strips about 1 inch wide, and we like absolutely covered the cell. Like it went in and out of the bunk, around everything, right, up, down, and I'm just sitting flushing like this, going gas, fast. And we're watching the tail of this thing go all the way around the cell.
It's fun.
So much fun, dude. And
yeah.
And the funniest part is, like, if somebody comes out with a blade in prison, like you've seen a bunch of knife fights, you come out with a blade and guys go like this, right? And guys get ready to fight that. You come out of that cell with anything that they had to use to clean the toilet, and the toughest men you've ever seen jump off the tier, run in different directions. They're way more afraid of a plunger that's been in a federal toilet.
That's so true, man. That's so true.
Especially the brothers. I'm sorry, but they're running away going, "Oh, God."
Oh, yeah,
Dude, I watched you in a knife fight yesterday, bro. You know what I mean?
They're afraid of someone. I was like, man, didn't you grow up in the projects, bro? Yeah. Because I know that housing isn't the top of the line housing. Yeah. I've lived in shitty housing growing up.
A plunger at some point.
Yeah. Hey, quick question. Is it cool if my daughter wants to come in and say hi to everybody?
Absolutely. Is that cool?
Yeah, she's out there. She did her hair and
nice.
She's on a little hoodie. Yeah. Hey, late. Okay, I'm sorry, guys.
Checks out with the hoodie.
She would kill. She's got me wrapped around her finger.
I didn't see that coming.
Oh man, 4 daughters, and I love this one the most.
Well, at least he's painfully honest with it. Oh my goodness! Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. Boy, you look at your mom.
Yeah, she does, huh?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Welcome to the boat. How cool is that?
We're starting her YouTube channel called Hazley's Fun Club.
Nice. Nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
You may not believe this, but at moments like this, the juxtaposition of the place that we met and where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna make me cry right now, so don't do that.
Question, right?
She sees me cry all the time, so
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay, honey.
I'm staying here.
See that? It's the effect of the camera.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry.
What a beautiful.
I mean, I know it's no big deal. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I can't wait, man. For real. Like prom night, I want to be there, man. For real. I want to do the. Have you ever seen the movie with Martin Lawrence where the kid comes for the prom and they terrorize him? He and
yeah.
Dude, I want to be there for that one. Ever done time in a men's prison?
Yeah.
The son, here for the daughter. You ever done time in a men's prison? You want to? What does he say to the guy, the kid, when he shows up? Have you ever had sex with a man? No, sir. Well, if anything happens to my daughter, you're gonna. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I haven't got it. It scares the crap out of me. Like Spanx Calhoun. Spanx is sick right now, and that actually kind of messes in my head. But Spanky's bulletproof. You know what I mean? He's a chip off the old block. He's just a bulletproof. But I worry about his sister nonstop. It's one of those things that I worry about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had an uncle that was a sheriff. At Christmas gatherings, he brought the finest moonshine. Well, you know, the way that we do it inside is a little different. I got to toot my own horn on this. I really did build the greatest cell in the history. I mean, the greatest still in the history of the feds. I had access to some wild, wild stuff at Unicorn, right? You had access to stuff you're never going to get on a prison yard. Like normally you steal a hose off the back of a washer or a dryer, right? I had about 40 feet of clear tubing. So when I built my still, the bag would come up and I had that stuff going up and going into ice in a bucket and then coming out the backside. Like we had a really good setup. Unfortunately, all it did was make people really stupid. And believe it or not, from a piece of advice I got from you, no joke, right? This was probably 4 years after that or 5 years after that. But you said to me once, if you hit a yard and they're selling soda, you don't have to worry about getting sugar. You just put a stinger into a 12-pack of soda and get rid of everything but the high fructose corn syrup, and that'll drive your batch, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I did? I made it out of Mountain Dew, right? Now that's not what they called it in there. I think they call it Mountain Thunder, right? It's like some off.
Yeah, it is Mountain Thunder.
But it's way too much caffeine, right? And when you stinger everything out of that, you don't get rid of the caffeine. So we were blowing off batches of this wine, and people get really, really drunk, and they don't go to sleep. They don't pass out. They don't do any of that. And causes, it's bad, dude. It's bad. Like it was so bad, no lie, that there was a cop there that was so cool, man. It was just cooler than the other side of your pillow. And he came and sat us down and he goes, man, I have let you make 200 gallons of wine. He's like, what's up with the crap you're making? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, no, man. He's like, people are getting violent. There's always fist fights. He's like, you're going to have to sell that outside this unit, or you're going to, you got to figure, make it weaker or whatever. And then finally some old timer went, are you stinger and soda? I'm like, yeah, where am I getting sugar on this yard? You know what I mean? Like their kitchen was on lockdown. And he's like, you ain't doing it with any of the really heavily caffeinated stuff, are you? And I went,
orange soda is the best. Orange soda. It's got the most sugar and it's no caffeine. But I never thought of that. And I've made plenty of wine with sodas. I never once thought of that.
No, if you're doing it with the caffeine becomes an issue, especially like I didn't have a problem when I did it with Coke. I didn't have a problem when I did it with anything. But I was on a yard you couldn't buy sugar soda at, right? But a bunch of guys, when they knew that was coming, they put tons and tons of cases of it under their racks. So I was buying 12 packs for like $3 flat a piece and then stingering them. But there was a lot of that thunder, a lot of that thunder left, man.
Yeah. Crazy. Did you ever try making it with atomic fireballs?
Oh yeah.
Man,
absolutely.
And breathe in that cinnamon, it'll get to you.
Absolutely choke you. Or you know what's even worse than that is the when you start breaking open, say 6,000 pink. we make wine with sweet and low, and you got to do like 6,000 sweet and low packs. We were getting the boxes. Yeah, you're sitting in there ripping them up, and the whole room like you're going. It's just everything is so sweet. You're all breathing in. I'm like, I got a shirt tied around my face. We're just sitting there ripping this stuff up. You can't drink that wine, right? But you can moonshine it. Yeah.
No, yeah. And most that like Hazelton, it was all sweet and lows, and everyone's hustle was sweet and low. That was like their second or third hustle.
Yeah.
With sweet and low to the shine guys. And yeah, man. I
call respect for these inmate firefighters in LA. Any interesting programs or opportunities in any of the prisons you've experienced? The feds don't do firefighting. I did firefighting when I was in the state of Nevada. It lasted, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days. Didn't work out very well for me.
What happened? Did you get a dirty UA or something?
No, here's what happened, man. So there's a bunch of different prisons that all have their own crews, right? So I was fighting out of what was the name of that camp? It was Shepherd.
Yeah.
Shepherd Camp is where I was training out of. And I had a piss pump. I had this little thing that creates fire. So my job was just to go out and start fires to get rid of all of the material that's going to feed the fire, all the food for the fire kind of thing. But when the other prisons showed up, these guys are rolling in, and we're on a pretty soft yard. These guys were coming in from some tough ones, and they were like, everybody had drugs. Everybody. So I did not get caught failing a piss test. I got caught getting high. I actually I got caught right in the act, bro. Well, they put us in these things that look like mobile homes, and they actually pull them out on a trailer, and you could put like 12 guys in any one of them, and they would just line them up. And you're only in there for 3 or 4 hours because you're working around the clock. So you sleep in like 3-hour shifts, and they don't enter the room. Like the whole time I was there, then they don't ever come in the room. So when he came in, I had a piece of tin foil, and I was like,
"Oh, jeez,
hey, don't worry, boss." And he's like, you need to come with me. And I'm like trying to keep the thing lit. I'm like, yeah.
It smells like cornflakes in here.
Yeah, I'm coming. Give me 2 more hits. I'm almost done. Stupid. That was and the sad thing is, we were getting paid $1 an hour, right? That's what they pay, $1 an hour. But that's from the time that they take you from your camp until the time you're done fighting the fire. So when you're in there sleeping, you're getting paid. When you're on the bus going back and forth, you're getting paid.
Cool,
so yeah, it really is. And it ends up stacking money. If it's a bad fire season, there are guys that make thousands of dollars.
Yeah, man.
Were you ever on a chain gang?
No, I would love to lie and say I have been, but
I haven't. No. No, I have not been on a chain gang. I have, however.
But man, I wish I would have just to experience it. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
But I mean, I've been on yards where they make you have a job, but I always fought that and never had to work really. Or I get a pretend job. You know how they have those pretend jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of those.
Me too. Where your friend hooks you up. Like I ran the kitchen at Terre Haute. And it was incredible because I probably had 60 white guys on staff that never once showed up for work.
Yeah.
And I was paying them all the minimum. At the time, the minimum was $19 or $16. And they'd kick me back half of it. It's a good damn month right there. And all I was doing was keeping them out of trouble. So they'd give me a flat buck so that they didn't have to have a job.
Yep. You keep clear conduct. You don't have to go to school.
I've never been on a chain gang. I have done a couple of things that were close. Once, while incarcerated in a county jail, I went out for what, for all intents and purposes, would be a chain gang, but we were not chained to one another. We were, however, dressed like the Monopoly guy. We had the white and black stripes on. And we went to clean up a rodeo. And it was
Yeah.
the dumbest idea in the world, right? They do this every year. They bring the inmates to clean up after the rodeo. So the guy hands me a 3-ply trash bag and says, you need to pick up all the trash that's underneath the bleachers. And I'm
my
just an ignorant idiot, right? So I look at him and I go, is there anything else? Is there another gig or whatever? And he's like, dude, I'm giving you the best job here. He's like,
I was gonna say that's got to be the best job,
dude. The first I walked under there, and the first thing I looked down to throw away, I'm not kidding you, was a pint of Jack Daniels that had 3 inches of it in the bottom, right? And I'm degenerate. Like I'm not. There's nothing about me that's Tommy Scoville at that point. I promise you, I am a degenerate. I went. I was like, and I found like, they were giving out chewing tobacco samples, like little packet things to anybody that came through the door. There was a million of them. There were so many of them on the ground that I'm like, oh my God, one of these would be worth inside. But every single guy that came back was loaded. Everybody. Like there were 25 guys that went out there and 25 guys came back drunk. And we went 5 consecutive nights. And on the last night, 2 dudes, RUNNOFT, just walked off. Had some people that, friends of theirs or whatever, bring some clothing. I mean, it's no risk because you're in there on some misdemeanor crap. You're not facing a case. You've been sentenced to misdemeanor jail, right? You're not a risk. You're a guy doing 30 days or whatever. So they didn't much care, but you're always going to get caught.
Every single time.
Nobody ever gets away, right? Nobody ever really gets away. But every time you were transported, did you ever get chained up to a real moron?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I had a couple of people that I was chained next to that I thought, would I like to just take this chain and wrap it around the I told you about the old man. First time I ever got on one of the buses to go anywhere, he's sitting down and he's chained next to this youngster and he goes, hey, I want to throw half of my ass up on your leg. And the kid goes, what the F did you just say to me? And he goes, my butt cheek. I'm just going to lean it up on your side. And he goes, the hell you are, weirdo. He goes, okay, kid. And I mean, about 30 minutes in, there's no padding on the buses, right? No padding. It's just a hard seat, dude. I did 14 hours on that. So you hit the first 3 bumps and you're doing this one, and the kid's like, hey, old man. He's like, F off, kid. Right?
Yeah.
I can do this time, man. No, your chance. But that's how you kind of have to do it. If you're going to be comfortable on one of those buses, you kind of have to split your time using a guy's leg as a chair. Do men in prison try to have their own shank for personal protection?
Yes. And
yes, they do.
Yes. Yeah.
Depending on the custody level, there's no choice about it.
Even in the mediums, I would like to have, I always had one. I was only a medium twice, but I always had one on deck, and I know a lot of guys would be like, man, you a bitch, man, you got shank on this yard. I was like, I just like to have one just in case, and I didn't carry it with me in a medium everywhere I go. The only spot that it was a mandatory have one with you at all times was Pollock.
Checks out.
Yeah.
I would have guessed.
Yeah. And when you go through the metal detector, it's like beep, 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 and the cop just stands there. Go through.
When you don't beep, they look at you like, what the hell was that? Okay?
Yeah.
I got to Victorville. This is a true story, man. I got to Victorville. And the cop comes in, and I don't know whether it's because sometimes it's the associate warden, sometimes it's the captain or the head of SIS, but you get the orientation speech, right? They don't call it orientation. I forgot what they call it in there, but they bring you up for like an orientation.
It's
you know exactly what I'm talking about, but you can't because you have to go through that before you can get a job, before you can do anything. But this guy comes in, and I had listened to 20 of these by this point, 15 of these, and he comes in and he goes, we take weapons serious as hell here. If you get caught with a piece, we're going to prosecute you, and you're probably going to do about another 6 to 7 years in prison. If the wrong guy catches you without that piece, you're dead. So you work that out. And then he walked out of the room. And I kid you not, I looked at the dude next to me. I'm like, is he telling me to carry a piece? You know what I mean? Like I came in with a buzz anyway. Is this dude telling me to carry a piece? Because it sounds like the warden's telling me I need a strap. But that's the only yard I ever went at. It's a true story, Casper. I went in to get my my laundry, right? And they measure you and they do all that stuff. Have you changed since the last time you were measured? No, I'm good. Just give me the same stuff. And there's a black woman who was the CO that was on duty, and she's like this. I mean, out like a light, bro. Her chin was on her chest, and she was knotted the hell out on on dope. And I'm just looking around at everybody, and the guy puts all my stuff up. He goes, "What unit are you in?" And I was like, "Echo." He goes, "Don't come to the yard without that." And put a blade in between the shirts. I went,
Yep.
"Yeah, all righty. We're not in Kansas anymore."
That's so cool. Yeah, I always like going to laundry because you'd be like, "Oh yeah, give me some 44s," and the guy would stand back and look at you. He's like, "Man, you might be a 42. These are a little small here, but I'll go, whatever you want." And they were always right, man.
Always.
They were always right. I would always come in under, and they would be like, "Nah, you're about a 44." I'm like, "Okay, man." They were always right, dude.
No, always. I used to do my my imitation of the dude from Bill Murray in Stripes when they go in to give him the stuff. He's like, "Boxers or briefs? You got a something in a low-rise mesh bikini."
That's a great movie, man.
I'll just live with the. He's like, 36. 36. These are at 32, and they're loose.
Oh man, there's so many good. I was thinking about Good Morning Vietnam the other day. That was a great movie. Stripes. What was the one with Goldie Hawn when she was in
Private Benjamin?
Private Benjamin. Thank you.
See that?
Good job. Good
That's
job.
Damaged brain too. Do you know anything about Thompson in Illinois? Yes, I do. I have a friend there, and they're 100 short on staff and on lockdown all the time. Would you rather be on lockdown for safety? No, I would not. Lockdown sucks. Now, when I was inside, Thompson is a lockdown facility. When I was in there, it was purchased to be the replacement special management unit. They were shutting down. What's the one that was in Illinois before then? The one that Gotti went through? Marion. They were shutting down Marion, and they were shutting down Lewisburg. And the third one that was in Yazoo, they were shutting down the one in Yazoo City. So all three of those were going to Thompson. Thompson is the biggest facility you've ever seen. And it's sinking. You remember the story?
Yeah,
They built this thing, and the state was like, "Oh, this is all wrong." They screwed it up, and the prison's actually starting to settle. There are buildings you might not want moving around. Prisons would be a good one for that, right? Because when they start breaking, the fellows will get out. But so the government was trying to buy Thompson from the state of Illinois to make it a federal system for SMOOs. And allegedly, they have televisions in the cells because they were building it to be a SMOO. And if that's the truth, well, then maybe it would be a little bit easier doing that kind of time. But lockdown, you're not safer. This is a really serious misconception, right? You're safer if the guy that you have to live with 24 hours a day, 365 days a year gets to get away from you, right? Gets to go outside and talk to other people and leave you alone. Because if you're going to beef with your cellmate, you're going to kill each other before anybody comes up there to stop it. I promise you, man. You'll hear it. How many times have you been in a lockdown unit where you just hear thump, thump, and you're like, "Oh boy, someone's getting it." And you're trying to listen to what direction it's coming from.
I've been involved in that so many times. At least 3 times. Yeah. Yep.
It's ugly. It really is.
It is. Yeah. I had a dude take flight on me with my cuffs still on. He took his cuffs off first, and I didn't think he had it in him to do that, but it was the only way he could get me, Yeah, dude. But yeah, I've been in plenty of those fights, and those are the best too. Like, I mean, not to be in them, but to listen to them. Yeah. Could you hear the squeaking and you just feel the commotion, Yep.
Everybody in the room feels it.
And when you're bored as hell reading books, you might be on week 6 of just nothing happening.
Nothing.
And then all of a sudden you hear a scuffle over there. You're like, hey, you all
right? Guys kicking the door and screaming.
Yeah.
No, it really is a different animal. I got attacked by a guy that couldn't have been more than 5'6", for real, at in the SMOO. And I just had. You're not going to believe this is the truth, but I'm telling you the gospel truth. We went into uncuff, and it was my first time entering the cell. And I uncuffed, he uncuffed first. And when I went to put my hands through the slot, he just hit me in the head. I mean, like he was trying to hit a baseball, caught me just above the ear. And if this dude had said, "I don't want to live with this guy," I would have been cool with it. It's his house. I would have bucked. I would have said, "He doesn't want to live with me. He doesn't want to live with me," right? I think he was threatened because I was a hell of a lot bigger than he was. This is about the same size as I was when I was with you. I was probably 250. You know what I mean? I was not a small.
Yeah, you're a big dude. Yep.
And I think he was just a little bit freaked out about the size of me or whatever. But Normally, this guy starts beating my ass. They're going to wait until he's out of oxygen. When he's tired as hell, they're going to go in on him. But they're going to pepper spray the room. I'm going to get hit. Everything's going to happen. They don't go in to save you. But the cop that was working at the time was a dude named Stacey. And when this guy fired on me, Stacey put that key in the door, ripped the door open, and grabbed this dude. Like, I was in shock, man. I was in shock. It's just not what happens. I thought, oh, this guy's going to just, treat me like a pinata. Stacey went in there and roughed this dude up and threw him on the ground and handcuffed him. And I was like, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. There was a guy when I was at Lewisburg. It's a true story. It was on the 3rd floor of J Block. And there was a black dude who had a heart attack. And there are no buttons at Lewisburg, right? It was built in 30. So it's like, it was built the same year as Terre Haute. So it's awful. But they start kicking on the door. He's like, he goes over and tells the guy across, he's like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And he's like, well, kick the door, bro. And he's like, I can't kick it for me. He starts kicking the door. His cellmate sees him having a heart attack and thinks it's a perfect opportunity to take advantage of him.
Jeez.
And the guy starts R-wording his cellie. And the way that the cop tells me the story, the cop comes down. I go, hey, what was going on upstairs, man? That shit got loud. And he starts telling the story. He goes, you're thinking you're having one of those bad days. You get up in the morning and you're like, oh, God, my heart. He's like, you're not having a bad day yet. He goes, your cellie, instead of going, maybe we should get his shirt off so I can start CPR. No, maybe we should get his pants off. And he goes, and the guy just starts hitting him in the seat. He goes, now this guy's having a bad day. Look like a legit bad day, dude, and he's still having a heart attack.
Cannot get worse than that.
This is not a panic attack. He's legit having a heart attack, and he's getting R-worded. And what do they do when they get there? They stick the fire extinguisher thing, the one with the little.
Yep.
And they just foam the entire room. So your morning just got a little better, right? Because before any of this is going to stop, you're going to huff pepper spray for about 5 minutes before they go in and stop this dude from doing what he's doing.
Jeez, man. Gosh.
Rugged, right? And it was great because this is a weird story, but I was in the
ugly.
It's so ugly. It's honestly one of the worst stories ever. But hold on one second. They green lighted him. So we're out in the cage and everybody is telling this story, right? And the black guys go, if you can get at that dude, if he's in the cage next to you, like you get any shot at this dude and you're white, stab him. You're Puerto Rican, you stab him. Anybody that can get this guy, we will cash out if you can get hands on him. They were serious about it. I'd never seen that before. What the heck is a shmoo? A shmoo is one of those, it kind of looks like a marshmallow, but it can be, you never saw the shmoo? It's a special management unit, SMU. It's SMU. Special management unit. When they determine that you can't play well with others,
and vapes do help me a lot. And I have my juice specially made with a very, very high nicotine.
Do you?
That
really?
Was the question.
Oh, I go the exact opposite.
Yeah, no, I do, and it drives my wife crazy. So I said I was gonna quit when this bottle is done, but I don't think I'm going to. But I want to see my daughter's, I'm 56. I want to see her get married. I want to see her graduate high school. And I tattoo on a lot of nurses. And when any of them see me vape, they'd be like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I used to smoke. And they're like, go back to smoking.
They're wrong. I don't care.
I know they're wrong. I know they're wrong, but they just want to scare the crap out of them.
Do you know what happened? This is what happened, and this is legit, right? And I talk about this a lot because of the harm reduction thing. But about a year and a half ago, we got a great news story, and people ran with it like hell. 7 kids in total that were all Juul smokers who got this kind of horrific lung infection that couldn't be cured. And they knew the kids were dying, and they watched all 7 of them die. And it just about, it did destroy Juul. Juul's still in business, but Juul had a $39 billion market cap. Right?
Yeah.
$39 billion estimated market cap. And now they're nothing. And what happened on every one of these kids but one came clean before they died and said to their parents, I was buying these vape cartridges that had weed in them, and they're in a state that's illegal. And they're buying this crap from somebody that's bootlegging this stuff and whatever he had in his machine or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Say what you will about Juul. Juul never put out anything that killed somebody in a day. right?
And you can
They
barely,
didn't.
it barely hits like,
There's
not like
nothing
this
to
thing
it.
does
Right.
like a big hit. The
No,
jewel, I bought
the
a jewel
jewel's
one
completely
time.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, popcorn lung is what they were calling it. And the truth is, very much, and I know this will bum a lot of people out too, but just like DuPont got sued over the breast implants, right? Because these women got lupus from breast implants. Statistically speaking, the number of women that got lupus from breast implants was statistically even to the number of people who didn't have breast implants that got lupus. Now you can buy silicone boobs again, right? But do you have any idea how many people got paid off, right? And it's a lot of times once a narrative starts to go, there are women where if you said, "Would you like saline versus silicone?" They're going to go, "You're not going to put silicone in my body, right? The last thing in the world you're going to do is put silicone in my body." Because of all of the reports and stuff. Here's what I had there's a guy who has a company called Bulletproof. And he's about the smartest cat that he's Elon Musk kind of bright, right? And what he said is this: I don't care what chemicals are in any of them. One of them you're lighting on fire and breathing it into your lungs. The temperature, forget the chemicals and everything else. The temperature of the smoke that you're breathing into your lungs is killing you, right?
Yeah.
It's not doing that with vape. But there are certain flavors you really need to avoid, and your best case scenario is to be abstinent from everything, right? Oh my God, Todd, you've got to be kidding! All right, just briefly because I talk too much, but I got one of my best friends kicked heroin and also had to kick tobacco because he really had a problem and mouth cancer and everything else, and he said to me, kicking heroin was 8 times easier than kicking Copenhagen. He said, nothing on earth is harder to quit than that. That is, you can't get more nicotine in your body. You've smoked it, haven't you?
I have smoked it. And I'm in Montana, so everybody does Copenhagen up here. And I don't know how they do it. I put a tiny little bit in and I'm nauseous and
spinning like you read about.
Spins. I mean, like almost instant. And I don't know how those dudes do it, but they do. I can't control it in my mouth. It just all comes apart and gets everywhere.
When I did state time, I would buy a box. I would buy a box of tea, and I would cut the tea bag and empty everything out of the tea bag and fill it with Copenhagen and roll it up and use it like a bandit because I couldn't stand the stuff getting all over my mouth. You talk about a nicotine buzz, and if you bought when I was in the feds, guys would take that stuff out of the trash that had been in a cop's lip, dry it out, roll it up, and smoke it and sell them. And people smoke them every day, right?
Terre Haute was big for that.
Big for that. Because of any place where there's Unicorn, that's always an epidemic because the cops don't guard hot trash at Unicorn. Unicorn, they just don't. But
my buddy Tracy stole some heating elements from Unicorn and made this like heating plate to put all that
dry it out,
and dry it out. And his room always smelled like saliva. It was
just disgusting.
Just a saliva and a faint hint of Copenhagen, but yeah, always, dude. He would just play with it. He made a lot of money on that.
Yeah, no, you literally can make a fortune selling that.
Yeah,
literally. I mean, there are guys that are feeding their families at home. They're making hundreds of dollars a week selling spit. But there was a cop that had a pair of Prada sunglasses, and he lost them. And there was a Southsider that had been cleaning his office, and he accused the Southsider of doing it. The guy that he accused, his name was Bones. Well, Bones was drunk that day, hammered.
Yeah,
it just happened to be that morning, right? He was drunk as hell. So they took him to the shoe, found out he was drunk. He lost his job. He was going to get shipped, and the fool found his glasses after all of this. Yeah, well, this was at a real prison too, right? This was Victorville. So like 3 or 4 guys, because it happened to be a Southsider, they get along real well with the white boys, especially in Cali. So the white guys, dude, we all went in together, and they pushed up on this cop and was like, guess what? You're going to go down to the shoe right now, and you're going to go get dude out, and you're going to bring dude back, and they're going to drop all the charges against dude. Yeah, or you're done. Like, I promise this is going to be the end of you. And he went and did it. And then, so he ended up giving they'll absolutely kill the dude. So he went and got the guy back out, and then he gave him 4 cans of Copenhagen unopened. Now, that's got to be $300, $400 a can in there, right?
Yep.
But I was really close friends with Bones, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm going to give you half a can." And I was like, yeah. I'm like, honestly, dude, I have a hard time chewing it. I'm like, it's rugged. He goes, you ever smoking? I'm like, I'm not much for smoking spit. He's like, I'm going to give you a can nobody spit at him. And I was like, oh. And I dried that out. Have you ever smoked that if it hasn't been chewed?
Oh, yeah.
I promise you, it is the most rugged nicotine. Like I took one hit and went, your head feels like it's going to explode.
Yeah. But, like, and I'm not glorifying heroin, not even a little bit. It's the ugliest thing I've ever had to live through. Yeah. But man, there's nothing like, doing your thing and then smoking like a chew cigarette. Cause that's happened to me, at Terre Haute. It just sets it off. You know what I mean? That
you
nicotine
won't fix if you don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a junkie for 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't care how dope sick I was. If I had to go grab one out of an ashtray, right? And I don't mean my ashtray. I mean, like go hit a mall and grab one out of an ashtray. But I wasn't going to fix until I had nicotine because you don't get the same buzz. That nicotine kicks that buzz off. And,
yeah.
And you know what the proof is? Honest to God, do you know anybody that shot dope that didn't smoke?
No, nobody.
Not one ever. And I had a friend that was so anti-cigarette. Like he used to just go off. You're not smoking in my car. Brush your teeth before you get in my car. Like he was just a dick about it. And when we moved, he smoked this stuff. The second he went to the needle, like he came out and I got in his car and went, did you buy a new car, dude? The inside of this thing smells like an ashtray. He's like, nah, bro, that's me. I was like, oh, God, no, dude. For real?
Good for you, brother.
Yeah, good for you, man. Welcome aboard. Hey, I talk about this guy on the boat all of the time, right? All of the time. I was one. He had multiple best men at his wedding. I think there were 3, but I was one of the best men at his wedding. We were really, really close. His name was Jeff. He's a great guy. And he said to me one day, he goes, when I look at you, right? He's like, I see a spoon. He's like, I see a syringe. He's like, hearing the sound of your voice makes me want to fix. Everything about who you are makes me want to get high. He's like, I love you. Please don't ever contact me ever again. And I mean, dude, this is like my best friend on planet Earth. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Like for real, this is how we're doing it. And I've never tried to reach out or, my understanding is he's still sober. So if I look like smack, I'm going to avoid him like the plague. I mean, his life. Talk about being a dude's trigger. You look like a syringe, man.
You know what's crazy?
I can grow it.
Oh yeah. I just looked up at the top of the screen and it says Tommy interviews an MDC survivor. And I didn't realize. I mean, I know we had talked to you, but like hey, you've been in, and we talked about it. But I didn't know that was what I was here for. So
you are an MDC survivor. And be honest,
I absolutely am.
Of all the prisons you went to in the feds, were they any tougher than any of the other ones, or were they softer?
Softer.
He's in for a shock.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
All of this complaining he's doing, I promise you, people, the day is coming where he's going to go, God, I would do anything to be back at MDC.
Yeah. 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 No, he's hit. Yeah, he's hit. I mean, they're gonna use him and abuse him and wring him out. And but you know what? There might be some dude on there that wants to be famous, that wants to get famous, and just smash him off the rip too. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm the dude who smashed Diddy.
Yep. Oh, I promise
that very well could happen too. Doesn't care about money. Doesn't care about anything. He can write a book after that. Yeah. Basically.
Yep.
You're
a stud. You're an instant
look at the long game. If you look at the long, man, I almost wish I was there right now.
I'm telling you, you write a book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you'd start a race ride if you did it yourself. Although I don't know. I don't know if the brothers would even back his play. You know what I mean?
No, how could they?
Yeah.
How could they? They'd probably like, oh, thank God we didn't have to do that.
No, he has no idea, said Cedric Walker. I promise you he doesn't. And he is looking at where he's at right now because I did this. I promise you I did this. When I got arrested on the bank robbery stuff and I was sitting waiting to go to the feds, I'm sitting in that county jail and I'm hearing all the bullshit, that people are telling you about. And I started to think that what I was experiencing right there, this is what prison was going to be like. I could order short order cook. There was a short order cook at that jail. You could only do it 1 meal a day. But if you had money, you could buy real food, pizza, burgers. I got no perspective, man. And then you'll enjoy this. I got moved by Corrections Corp, right? corrections court moved me before the U.S. Marshals or the people that run Con Air or any of those. And the bus I got on had padded seats, like it looked like Captain Kirk's chair from Star Trek, right? And there were widescreen TVs in it. And the guy goes, "We got about 160 different movies. There's a sheet with all the titles. If you guys pick the movies, I'll put them in and they'll go play one right after the other." He goes, "I know you guys haven't had anything to eat. You guys want Burger King or McDonald's?" And we're all looking around at each other going, "Oh, hell yeah, man. The feds, like, this is good stuff."
Yeah.
The next day I was at friggin' Victorville and the fun had come to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, that's funny. Like when I very first got indicted, they had to fly me down to Denver to book me because they arrested me up here. They flew me down to Denver, and the marshal was the same thing. It was like, "Do you want Wendy's or Burger King?" And it was a marshal though. It wasn't the Core Civic or the whatever, the Transcore. And yeah, that was awesome. So anyway, so when I got back to Montana, the marshal that was up there, he did most of his, when he first started, worked from Denver. And he's like, "Hey, who picked you up down there?" I was like, "Oh, it was a cool cat in Oakley's and this other dude." He's like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, man, they took me to Wendy's. I got a triple burger." And he's like, "Oh, did they?" And so then he fed me and he took me to Pizza Hut, and like, you know, he ran in and got it. But so I got a little mini pizza and a salad. And when I went back to Denver, it was like they were having like this battle who could, you know, outdo each other. And yeah, it was a trip. I was like blown away. And it was always like, you know, the first time was like, "Hey, you know, I got good news and bad news. And the bad news, we have a 2.5 hour drive. The good news is though, we're going to stop somewhere and get some lunch, you know?" So yeah, it was pretty cool.
I have found in my time being prosecuted and persecuted by law enforcement that the coolest of all of them were the U.S. Marshals. When I had my stroke, they brought me into the hospital and I was in there under a number. They don't put you in under a name because they don't want the people who know me finding out what room I'm in, start trying to stop by and visit or any of those things. So you're put in under a number and no information will be provided to them about it. And so I got 2 U.S. Marshals and I got a chain on my ankle that hooks me to the bed. And when the marshal comes in, he goes, "Well, there's no reason to show the world that." And he throws the blanket over the cuff. And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You can't hit on nurses if they think you're a bad dude." And I started laughing. And the girl came in and she goes, "I need to scan your bracelet before they give you any medication or whatever." And there's no name on the bracelet. And she said to me, "I've never seen one of those without a name on it." And I go, "No." She goes, "No." "Who are you?" And the guy goes, "You don't know who he is?" "The U.S. Marshal." And she goes, "No." And he goes, "Well, we're hired to protect him. He's kind of a big deal." And she's like, "Oh." And she walked out of the room. I was like, "Thanks, guys." I mean, they were just 2 of the coolest dudes ever. And they had to guard me for days on end in there. And they had the guy, when we got outside, I said, "Hey man, can I get a cigarette?" He's like, "You just had a friggin' stroke." I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm going to federal prison. It's like, yeah, what the hell? And he gave me, they were just really, really cool dudes. You know, they were a very, very laid back. And then finally toward the end, the girl comes in. She's like, "Seriously, who are you and why are you in here?" Because one of them was down eating and the other dude was taking a leak. And she's like, "Who are you?" And I just whipped the blanket up and showed her my ankle. I'm like, "I robbed a bunch of banks." And she's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that." Tara Glider says, "I had to have tobacco with opiates." Hey, Shadow Woman, I really appreciate all of the support. You are fantastic. I mean that. I think that's everybody, Tara. I think it's everybody. There's something about what nicotine does to opiates. It's real. It really is. I told another content creator that Diddy will probably be attacked in federal prison. They said, "No, he will be segregated." Can you explain that and how they will get to him? Absolutely. And then I will let Casper weigh in. But here's my thing. A dropout yard, or what they call a special needs yard or whatever. Somebody said, where would Diddy end up? He's going to end up at Terre Haute, he's going to end up in Coleman, or he's going to end up in Tucson. Those are the 3 places he will end up at. If you think everybody on that yard is a pansy, right, then you don't understand how people end up on that yard. I have known stone cold killers, right? I mean, people who do not have remorse, who are now walking special needs yards because they picked a fight with the wrong dude and the gang green lighted him, right? They thought he was solid as hell on a Monday. He's got bodies. He's killed people. And on Tuesday, he's green light by his gang. And now he's on a special needs yard. If you think that ride from Con Air, right, to Coleman, softened his ass up, then you don't understand convicts. There are killers on those yards. Now, someone asked a question about Danny Masterson and where he's at. Let me tell you something. I don't care where they protect you. You might fly completely under the radar for 4 years, 5 years. Then somebody's going to get on that yard, right? The person who said to you, how are they going to get to him? Tell your friend to look up Larry Nassar. That dude's been punctured more times than most porn stars. And this is constant, right? Every time he hits a new yard, somebody gives him about 9 of these. They got to life flight him. And when he hits the next one, they do it again. They just haven't caught an organ yet. But this dude gets his ass kicked and he gets beat on. Same with the guy that assaulted and kidnapped Elizabeth Smart. I watched him get smooth unconscious, right? That guy gets beat up everywhere he goes. These people live an existence that I don't think you can imagine. You know what I mean? If you're on the phone making a phone call, okay, it's Christmas. I'd walk in and hang you up. Say, get your ass out of here. I'd take the phone and go. And the person's not going to do anything because everyone in the room will jump on him if he does something. Right? He's lucky to be walking the yard.
Yeah.
Did I leave anything out?
No, that was perfect. He's gonna get smashed at least once.
Guaranteed.
I know he is. I guarantee that. And there's no segregating him. There's just not. And he's probably going to go to a pen at first because of the amount of time. And like you said, Tucson, Coleman 2, or Terre Haute. I think he has the best chance of survival at Terre Haute. I really do, just because of the GDs and vice lords that are there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mention them, but
no, you're good. You're good. I don't have any problem with
the New York Kings that are there, and I have mad respect for those dudes. Hoover might get pardoned, or not pardoned, but they're talking about that.
Here's the thing: you can say it. You know what I'm saying? The difference between I never tipped up. You can talk about that stuff with an authority that I don't because of the fact that I just never went down. It's just one of those things I decided early on. Do I think Danny will survive? I don't think someone's going to kill him, but he's going to do bad time. He hates his life, right? And I know they say, he goes and they say he spends his time playing pickleball. You know why that is? Because they will give the chomos a chunk of time, right? The weirdos, a chunk of time to go use the gym. Trust and believe that's his happiest time on earth because the people in there are all weirdos. But the yard will have 150 weirdos on it. And 1,050 people that either ratted on the wrong person or ran up a drug debt they couldn't pay. But these guys are gangsters. I promise you, they're gangsters. There are some real killers that ended up getting pushed over.
Yeah. So, did I tell you I was an expert witness in a murder trial up here in Montana?
You did not.
Yeah. They a lawyer friend of mine who I've known for years, and he just called me out of the blue one day and said, "Hey, I got some photos I want you to look at," and they were autopsy photos of this guy who got murdered here in a small town, and he's like, "Do you see any gang tattoos on him?" And I was like, "Man, I don't see any gang tattoos." I looked all over his body. He's like, "Could you testify to that?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So anyway, he hired me as an expert witness on prison gangs, and I testified at this guy's. The guy said, because the guy who got unalived told the dude that unalived him that he was AB. Right. And, to be a real AB, you have to bleed in.
That's right.
And so he was in fear for his life. So he unalived him. And so that was his defense. But because the prosecutor's like, no, this guy isn't. So anyway, they had me look at it, and I testified that no, he does look like one, but he definitely doesn't have any of the tattoos that it doesn't matter. It was in fear for his life. He lost. I don't know how he's doing on appeals, but man, that was a great gig. It was
Jared Fogle, right? Somebody had said it's hard to believe Jared Fogle only got attacked once. I don't know where you got that, right? I don't know where you got that Jared Fogle was only attacked once. TMZ only did a story about Jared Fogle being attacked once because these stories don't get out of the BOP. They don't. The BOP keeps it. The guy that I'm always talking to you about, my cellmate from the SMU, is dead. right? And I have been trying to figure out for 3 years what happened to this dude. The BOP does not let information out. You know what they said? He was found dead in his cell, right? He was 32. I don't think he just didn't wake up. What do you think?
Yeah.
And he was not, and he wasn't the kind of guy. I mean, he did a Whitey Bulger. He had attacked a member of your former organization, the one with the cool sunglass tattoos, not the other one, right? So he had attacked an NLR dude, and he was greenlit. He got on a bus knowing he was going to Victorville greenlit. I mean, he may not have been tough, but he had balls of stone. But I guarantee you, he didn't die of natural causes. But you cannot find out what killed him. And the only rumor the only thing that I got at all was somebody that said, I knew a dude that went on the bus with him, and they kept saying to him when they got there, dude, you gotta go upstairs. You cannot walk out onto this yard. I just think he was tired. He got busted when he was really young, and he had 2 life sentences. And he told me, he's like, yeah, there's no way I'm dying old in prison. I don't want to die old in prison. I think he went out there to get himself killed. But Gerald Fogle got tuned up so many times, you got no idea. I promise you. He's had to slap crap. I mean, he's not hard. He ain't fighting, and no one's got his back. He's been tortured. Dude, Larry Nassar gets his butt kicked every other day.
Yeah.
He does. Every yard Larry Nassar goes to, he gets the crap kicked out of him. He goes to the hospital. When he gets out of the hospital, he goes to the shoe, and he waits to get sent back. And he's been doing the pinball thing between the 3. They're going to have to put him in a state facility at some point.
Yeah.
Or ADX.
They do those trades with the state. Whenever you see a 555 number, that's usually a state inmate.
Nice.
I was with a guy, and he was a 555. And
can you explain that to the crowd, because they have no idea what you mean by that, but I do.
Yeah, so you're you get a number when you get booked. When the marshals do your fingerprints and everything, you get a number. It's called a reg number, it's 5 digits, and then there's dash, and then another 3 digits. The 3 digits are your state code, the state or district wherever you fill out. But it's generally in your state. So I used to be able to tell just by the numbers, what state, because the numbers do mean something. It's
Absolutely.
not like they stand for letters, and I used to know it all, but I don't anymore. So anyway, a 555 is like unheard of. Like,
no one comes from a 555. If you see dash 555, that fool's in there, and that's probably not his real name.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, Casper? I swear to you, we had this discussion once, but I never saw a 555, and I heard other people talk about it. I thought it was a myth. And then when I went to FCI Terre Haute, when I got attacked at Victorville, it turned out that somebody had put 2 kites in saying they're going to hit the old white guy with a cane. And they weren't talking about me. They were talking about this dude, Dave. But because they had been warned and did nothing about it, and because my ex was an attorney, they were in a dead panic. And like, they brought me in and they were like, listen, this is going to come out because there's a file on it. And they may have said that you were going to get attacked. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, people sue for this. It's a very difficult thing to, it's a hard thing to prosecute, right? It's a hard thing.
Yeah.
And what it basically came down to is the guy said, but how about if we let you pick a yard, right? Like, we'll hook you up. And I went, sure. Why don't you send me to FCI Tucson? It's supposed to be the most beautiful prison in the entire world, right? I said, send me. And he laughed and he goes, yeah, like within reason. He's like, you're not going to go to FCI Tucson. He's like, but within reason. So I get listed 3 other yards, and they sent me to FCI Tucson. And when I got there, you talk about prison land, bro. I mean, it was prison land.
Yeah.
Every issue's brand new clothes, brand new everything. It was just, there weren't enough people on the yard. They were overstaffed, not understaffed. But I saw 4 dozen dudes that had 555 numbers.
Oh, wow.
So
really?
So if you were working it, and then like, they rewarded me because I didn't sue. They were rewarding those 555s for something else. But there was a lot of guys doing some real soft time there. And of course, I screwed it up in an hour and 15 minutes. It's just
that's right. I only met one, and he tricked me into doing spice, and I've only done it the one time, and I'll never do it again. Yeah, I instantly got my knife, and I hated it.
And you knew you made an error before you blew the first hit out.
Oh my gosh, man!
It hits you faster than any substance on earth. Yeah, I did it once. I didn't. I was dope sick. Like I needed it fixed. There was nothing on the yard. And the shot caller, who was my best friend at the time, he was from the South Side. And he said, he's like, dude, I got some. They call it deuce there, like K2 deuce. He's like, I got some deuce. He's like, this will take the edge off until the stuff hits. And we were just waiting for the guy to come back from visit. And I'm like, nah, I don't think I want to try that, dude. He's like, no, trust me. So we go in his room, and they had a couple of cells there that are 3-man cells. They're big, but they don't put 3 guys in them. So there's just like a couch. There's a third bed in there that everybody can sit on. And we went in there, and these are all big gang members. I was the only dude in the room that wasn't in the gang. And the thing went around once. Everybody hit that thing once. Nobody tried to hit it a second time, right? And then we spent an hour in that room with guys going like this, right? Gangsters going, this shit ain't no joke, dude. I ain't having no fun, bro. This ain't no fun, man. What's up with this?
Yeah.
Like, when does this end? And each guy would say something. Yeah, I'm not having fun. This ain't no joke. Who did this? Who sold this? And it went around a circle like that for an hour. And then as it started to wear off, one dude's like, yeah, that's crazy. You guys going to hit some more of that? I'm like, no. Not if I live to be 150. Will I ever hit more of that, dude?
It makes no sense how those guys get hooked on it. I don't understand it.
It makes no sense. But it's crack. It's crack. I mean, it really is, because you've seen it. The guys that hit it, they're like, they hit the stuff, and for 15 minutes they're like this, and then they need another one. I ran a pawn shop for a while. It was awful. And it used to be a fun way to work a business in prison, was to cluck stuff. Just lend somebody money against their property. But once the K2 came out, you're clucking stuff from somebody, and you give him 20 flat bucks, and he comes back 8 minutes later with his shoes and his underwear, and you're like, yeah, bro, I can't really help you anymore, man. You know, I know you still need more of this stuff, but I am absolutely not willing. So doesn't some of these chomos, like Jared Fogle, get sent to a chomo yard full of sick-ass chomos? No, they don't. The way people look at this is, from the street, the misconception is, there's a yard of 1,300 Diddies, and they're going to send Diddy to this yard of 1,300 Diddies, and he's just going to blend right in, and all of them have touched kids, and all of them have R-worded women, and all of them have done these things. Those yards don't exist in the BOP. I promise you they don't. If you take, you were at both Terre Hautes, correct?
Correct.
What percentage so at the USP Terre Haute, what percentage of the people in there were do you think, like SOs, right? People who were in there on kiddie porn charges or anything like that. What percentage of them in there were chomos? It can't make that more than 10%.
I would say less than that.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I would say less than that. And then
and a lot of them are hiding, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of them in there that are just.
Yep, because we had to get one. I mean, yep, I had to get one. And then
now, did you hear that? Hold on, everybody ought to hear that, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. So my friend was a member of a gang. When that gang greenlighted him for some crap that he was ordered to do anyway, and that's usually how it happens. They have to take definitive action so that they're not the bad guy. So if they send you to do something that you shouldn't have done, the first thing they're going to do is greenlight your ass and say you did that on your own. You didn't have authorization to do that, because they're all trying to protect themselves. So now you end up on a yard like that, and you're still putting in work. Like I know a bunch of guys that went through, or I met a bunch of guys, I should say, that went through Terre Haute. And the reason is I got transect to Terre Haute, right? That's where I did my whole time, was at the USP in Terre Haute, not the other way around, right? So I met a bunch of guys over there, and the guy would be in the shoe, and I'm like, what are you in the shoe for? He's like, I crushed a chomo. I'm like, on a special needs yard? Like, I did not understand the concept. I thought the same thing. I thought the whole freaking yard would be chomos. And the guy said to me, he's like, bro, there's probably 40 of them on this yard.
Yeah.
There's 1,300 guys there. He's like, 40 of them have got paperwork like that. And I go, then what are the rest of them? He goes, guys that ran up dope debts and didn't pay them. Guys that, that got greenlit by a gang, or a guy that, any of these stupid things that people end up on a dropout yard for.
Yeah. They call it a limited yard. And I don't know what the definition is of that, except for the self-explanatory one that you just explained. That
makes sense to me, actually, because I've had this explained to me by, so
like they're still active, but they can't be like this, like the Serenos that are they're still, or there was even an AB dude there. He's still, but that's his story. But I was with a couple Serenos that were there, and then was on an active yard later, and one of those Serenos was there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because he cleaned up his whatever mess he had going on. He was in the hat, then he got out of the hat. Actually, he wasn't even all the way in the hat. It was just like, you
Punishment.
can't walk anymore.
Right.
Yeah, punishment.
Mother bird, a chomo is somebody that hurts a child.
Yeah.
And does it in the worst way possible, and very often films it, which is how they end up in the feds, or at least we're trafficking in images of kids, usually videos and things of that nature. And they're called chomos.
So
my best friend from the street, or a guy I knew well on the street. He wasn't my best friend, but he and I went through the state prison together. And then he caught a case that moved up into the feds, and we did all of our county jail time together. When I was with my last wife, he knew her. We were all friends. Everybody knew each other. I got to know this guy really, really well. And I reached out to him after getting out, and I went to look him up on the computer, and he's at USP Terre Haute. This dude's validated. He's a killer. And this is a killer that when I was in trouble and there were people threatening me, I came back from rec, and this dude is sitting in the black section of my unit, right? Talking to like 6 dudes, telling them that I'm going to kill you if you mess with rock. I'm going to come up here and kill all of you. Like he was literally the scariest dude on earth, right? This guy's a savage. They got him in something called Operation Deep End. If you all ever want to have a laugh, you can look up FBI Operation Deep End and read about my friend. But this dude, so when I wrote to him, and we've been in correspondence, and he said to me, he goes, I crush chomos off this yard all the time.
Yeah.
But he said the same thing. He said, I go, that's not an active yard. He goes, BS. He goes, Tucson's not an active yard. There's nothing going on at all. And Tucson is more freaks than almost anything. Right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They do have places for them, but they don't get to go there right away.
No.
They
even
have
still,
to,
even still, it might be 30% of the population.
Yeah, at the safest place where they would finally end up, like a Deuce or a Tucson, they still have to go get beat up and stabbed and everything else they got to go through to even make it to those yards because they're just so overcrowded and so they try to see if they can make it. It's
Do you know why Terre Haute is out of all of them is different than all the others? Because for the longest time,
it's a different yard. Yeah,
they had a program on that yard that solid dudes, right? Guys that. So you could enter that and leave it. You also can get sent to that yard for medical, right? Because it is one of only 3 approved medical facilities in the BOP that is full blown. Victorville's another one where they have the hospital staff to do anything for all intents and purposes. It's a real. They will also give out narcotics on that yard. It's one of 3 yards of the BOPs that will get. So Terre Haute's a really unusual place.
Yeah. Did you hear that white gang there called the Zorbinos? Did you ever meet any of those dudes? Those were all really cool dudes, man. Yeah. Never heard of it before. And then there was another one that was like called the Gay Kids or something, or
Gay
Lords. The Gay Lords.
Oh, the Gay Lords? Yeah, because the GBG is thick in there. The Gay Boy Gangsters.
Yeah, no, the GBGs, but no, these guys were called the Gay Lords, but it was the white, like platoon or whatever, like the white. So they were like a subsection of the Vice Lords, but they were called Gay Lords, but they were all white, but they were Vice Lords, so they were white.
Crazy.
But I mean, some brothers, man, just call them gay, man. The Gay Lords.
That's a tough handle for a prison.
Dude. Yeah, I met one, man. He was cool as a fan, though. He was cool as a fan.
Not for nothing, but they still do let the inmates take care of them, right? It just doesn't happen the way that it used to. It used to be so. There is a cop that was at Terre Haute, and he would work both sides. I guarantee you know this dude. He had Tourette's syndrome. And I'm not laughing or making fun of anybody, I promise. But it's a rugged job to have Tourette's syndrome and to really have it. This guy would just scream out curse words and he would chew tobacco and it would be all over him because he had tics and things that would get him moving and he would constantly just be spitting in it. But that was the dude that he would bring a guy into the unit and go, Amber alert, Amber alert. Like, I mean, as he's walking the dude in, we'd be like, wonder if we ought to check this guy's paperwork. You know what I mean? Like he ended up getting run out of Terre Haute. It was like the 4th time he had been written up for doing exactly that. He would call me up to the computer, right? He'd go, bring a friend. I don't want you to come in here alone. I need your help. And I'd be walking up with a friend, and he would turn the computer and go, see that? See the cell number? Yeah, read his case.
Yeah.
Like he didn't care, right? Read his
Yeah.
case.
Yep. And a lot of those dudes have their charges are old charges out of the state that are now in the feds.
Correct. What is so explain in the hat?
So yeah, in the hat is say I'm a shot caller for the Mexican mafia, the Black Hand, and I need one of my soldiers is done. It's the end. It's buckwheats or curtains for him, and I'll put him in the hat. So it's just an expression. It came from something, and I used to know where it came from, but yeah, that's basically it. So if you're in the hat, you're hit.
It's all bad.
It's all bad. It's like
bad.
if you're truly in the hat by one of those dudes, you better just go beg for a change of name and everything else.
I mean, honestly,
yeah. You'll definitely go upstairs.
You may as well do it before they. You know what's funny, Casper? When I was at, so look, you know me, dude. I really do not want to be involved in politics. I've never been that dude at all on a yard. But at when I was at Sheridan, you rotate through. Like that's just you're not putting work in really because there's no work to put in. But your job is to harass people coming through to get them out of the unit because you're not going to smash them. You're just going to tell them they can't live there. It's completely different. But this new kid came in and it was during a lockdown, right? They were tearing up the unit. So this kid hits and they send him right to the gym. And the gym there's got a walking path that goes around the inside. It's a very cool yard. And we're walking on this padded track and he comes walking up like, right? And he's like, hey guys, just got here. I'm like, yeah, what are you in for? He's like, growing weed. I'm like, how long did you get? He goes, 7 years. I go, how much friggin' weed were you growing? 7 years in the fence for weed? Yeah. Would you grow 40,000 tons? Because I knew guys that got caught bringing like 6,000 pounds across the border and got 4 years. Like, how do you get 7 years? I go, bro, that doesn't add up, man. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but that doesn't add up. And he goes, no, I'm telling you the truth. I said, all right. I said, your cellmate is from an organization that calls themselves Southsiders. I said, and when they lock the door, he's going to ask you about your case. And if you tell this dude you got 7 years for growing weed, you're not going to see tomorrow morning. Like, I'm just being honest with you, bro. I said, and he's a good dude, and he's got about 2 years left on his sentence. So why don't you do the right thing, right? I'm like, I said, I don't care about any of this, bro. I'm going home. This is just my time in the rotation. But I'm telling you right now, you're going to get killed when you go back to that unit. And he instantly ran upstairs. Like he instantly checked in instantly. But I remember the caseworker called me in and he goes, dude, what did you do? I go, what did I do? I go, what do you mean? Why would you pick me? He goes, well, the kid told me you did it. Right? He read your number off your shirt. And so the first time I'm out in the yard, he's walking with all the weirdos. And I walked over and I go, hey, did you tell him I was the dude? He goes, well, he asked me who talked to me. I'm like, bro, you're not going to make it till Thursday, bro. If I had any time left to do, I would kill you on general principle, man. Yeah. I'm like, you ratted in your first 8 minutes. Like, way to hold your mud, dude. You're going to make it.
Yeah, man.
You're going to make it, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get those cats, they're first timers and they got busted in, say, Dogpatch, Iowa. So, they're in a county jail there where that's probably how their whole county jail is, 10 people. And they go straight from there to Pahrump to a federal joint.
Yep.
And they just think that's what they're supposed to do. Like if the cops ask you a question, you just tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Telling yourself, telling everybody else. Do some prisoners still make gay boys their, or is that a thing of the past? It's not a thing of the past. And there are still guys that are going to be out there trying to shark these guys, but they're not going to walk to the chow hall holding the dude's hand or having the dude hold their belt buckle. Like the days that you see in movies like Oz or the TV shows like Oz, I never saw any of that anywhere.
No,
I never saw anybody that had a girlfriend that was out in the open about it. There was a dude, there was a Southsider that I guarantee you he had one, but and everybody kind of knew about it. But he was doing life, and within that car, man, they knew what was going on, and they were just sort of looking in the opposite direction, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there are guys that might be doing that, but they got to be on the down low, man. If it comes out that you're doing this, no one's going to let you walk that yard. Even a soft yard, they're not going to put up with that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because when I first fell, I expected to see that, and it was, it was no way, Jose, that none of that is going, especially with the white boys. Like yeah.
No, I mean, there are certain crimes that
They can't even walk.
This is a misconception, and I try to clear this up every time, and I don't think people get it. You can look like Steve Urkel, right? You could be the geekiest 110-pound dude, but if you're in there for slinging dope, or you're in there because you robbed a bank, and they look at your paperwork, and they came into who your partners were, and you said, "I'm not talking," then no one's going to beat you up. I promise you, as a white boy, if somebody goes after you, there's going to be other woods that take serious offense to that, right? There's enough bad people in there to tax and rip off and take advantage of. They're not going to push up on you just because they can. Nope. I never saw that. Did you?
Nope, not one time. And those dudes were always the coolest dudes, those nerdy dudes that came in and their paperwork was good. They were always like this good for entertainment,
Like our friend the surfer.
Yeah, like that dude, man.
Hey, I gotta ask you this, and I know that not everyone's gonna enjoy this as much as you do. But you remember a guy from Black Canyon? He was a black dude, real light skin. They called him Beachy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I got a story for you. This is so great. When I went to the SMU, Beachy was on the bus with me, right? Mm-hmm. He and I didn't get along, right? From the SMU, from the shoe at Black Canyon, we were just not getting along, right? We just did not. Mm-hmm. So he's on the bus and he's shackled, and I'm on the bus and I'm shackled. And you pull up at the airport for Con Air, and they come on, and first thing they're going to do is pull everybody off the bus that's not getting on the plane. They're getting on another bus. So they pull all those people off.
There's like 7 buses at that airport. I've been to that airport. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just confusing, and everything's so they get everybody off, and then the last 10 guys that are on there are going to the special management unit. We're going to the SMU, and they call out everybody's name. His last name is Beachy, right? So they're going to call him first or second, right? They don't call his name. So he goes, "Hey, man, you didn't call my name." He goes, "What's your name?" He goes, "Beachy." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, the FBI is here to pick you up." And he goes, "Why would the FBI be here to pick me up?" He goes, "Apparently you just got charged with armed career criminal." He was at Black Canyon, and he had a blade that he was carrying in his butt crack. Mm-hmm. And when they went to search him, they found the blade, right? Or tried to find the blade. He starts yelling the R word as they're trying to strip him. And he's firing on people or whatever. But they treated it as a weapons charge and gave him an armed career criminal. Looking at 15 years. He had 5 months to the gate. So as he's sitting there in this chair, and again, we don't get along, right? And one of the guys goes, "Oh, Beachy, I'm so sorry." And keep in mind, you're shackled, right? Your hands are at your waist. There ain't going to be no fighting. Right? Yeah. But I go, "Hey, Beach, man, it could be worse." He looks over and he goes, "Are you effing shitting me, Rock?" He goes, "How could this be worse?" I go, "Could be me they're here for. That would have been worse." I'm like, that would have been a hell of a lot worse. I'm kind of enjoying this one. And,
just got one last one in.
One last one on the way out the door. And my best friend on that bus with us is going to the SMU with me. His name is Stank. You probably remember Stank. His leg came down and did this one like a kickstand. Snake's just dying, dude. He's laughing so hard. He goes, "Rock, it's the coldest thing anyone has ever said." Like, I'm just not a fan of him, Yeah. But apparently, he took a deal for 6 years. They cut it down, and he took the armed career criminal for 6 years. You got 150 days left, and you find out you got to pull 6 more years. I would be crudely fashioning a noose on the way to jail. I wouldn't even wait to get in my cell. Oh man.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I've kind of been waiting for that question, like, what's the coldest thing you've ever seen or heard? I guess since I put it out there, I could tell my story. It's a quick one. It was at Oklahoma Transfer Center.
One of my
favorites. And you know how they have the TV room that's out in the outside area?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's open to this sky, but it's not. There's like a I know exactly what you're talking about.
They got like an outside TV there.
Yep.
I'm sitting out there, and just out of nowhere, this white dude just starts stabbing this dude who's sitting in front of me, and the dude's crawling away, and the white dude's like standing over me. He's like, "Where you crawling to? You're dead. Where you crawling to? You're dead." And he's just saying it to him like you're done. Like I don't even know why you're crawling. I just thought that was the coldest thing I ever heard, man. I was like, wow. Wow.
nothing worse than those moments that are just. I know I told this story 100 times, but we were on the way to chow and a guy drops like somebody shot him from the guard tower. Like he just dropped, fell over. And everybody, you know how they go on the ground and you got to be like this. You got your hands on the back of your head. Everyone's laying there in the same position. They got their legs crossed. And one of this guy goes, what happened to him? He just dropped from a heart attack, you know, something like that. Is he dead? I don't know. He looks dead. What size are those shoes? What size are those kicks? They look like about an 11. I'm like, this dude's laying here dying.
Thinking about shoes, man.
They're talking about what they're going to peel off of his dead body. What size are those kicks? And everybody, as soon as he said it, everyone just started laughing. And I remember thinking to myself, I hope that this dude didn't hear that. You know what I mean? I hope I hope the last thing he heard on earth wasn't people sizing up his shoes before he goes. Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. This is one of the worst things in the world when you're doing time. I'm telling you what, when I didn't want to leave Q, right? Like I was growing by leaps and bounds, and I was just like I was becoming a different person. And I got called in. The guy's like, yeah, you need to tell everybody what's up, give your time at Unicore because you got to leave. I'm like, I got to leave. Why would I have to leave? Like I'm doing fine here. Everything's good. I haven't even gotten in trouble. Like, why would I have to leave? And he's like, by law, they had the first step thing. You had to be within 500 miles of where you're discharging from in your last however many days. So I was getting flown out to Paradise because it was as close as they were going to be able to get me to Reno. But leaving Q was like passing a kidney stone. It really was. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, when they pulled you out, when they pulled you to go to Pollock, I went through, I mean, it was horrific. Because I just got one shit cellmate after you left, and I shouldn't say this because some of them may end up watching. But my cellmate on the yard when I got hemmed up was a guy named Dio. Dio had just hit the yard, and Dio got in trouble and got brack. So like I had just gotten away from this guy. I mean, he was a good dude, but we didn't necessarily click as cellmates. And as you know, but he had solid paperwork. So when they brought him to the back, like you remember how allergic I am to mushrooms, like they can kill me. Like me and this dude never really kind of clicked. I have really bad allergy to mushrooms. It will take me off of planet Earth, right? In fact, I passed out with you in there. You remember that crap? Yeah. It almost killed me. They had to take me out of there and shoot me up with stuff or whatever. But as he was getting ready to leave, right, the day they said, you're packed up, your stuff, you got to go. He goes, hey, man. And he throws me a pill bottle. And I go, what's in the pill bottle? And there's 4 mushrooms in it, right? That he had dried out. I go, what the hell is this? He goes, I ain't going to lie to you, dog. I've been thinking of killing you with him for the last week and a half. He's like, but I'm out of here. You can have them. Dude, and I sat there going, huh? What the F? Like, what did you say? He's like, yeah, you've been driving me friggin' nuts. He's like, but yeah, nothing to worry about. I'm out of here. Straight up. Do you remember also? Wow, dude. How many times somebody would leave and then get brought back? I would make welcome back signs. You get out to Con Air and the plane would be shut down. You're all excited. You're like, oh, thank God, I'm finally out of this dump. And you get out there and they're like, yeah, the plane is leaking fluid. There's a pilot standing in front of the plane, putting his finger in the fluid and going, yeah, could be brake line. I have been on Con Air when the entire inside of the plane smoked. And I said to the guy, what is that? I'm like, dude, something's on fire. And he goes, it's the lighting thing. He goes, those wires are really thin and the stuff starts. He goes, it's not a big deal. I'm like, if shit's burning on an airplane, it's a big deal, dude. You got to take my word for this. Like, you know,
so many times.
Oh, dude.
So many times been brought back, and you have to go through the whole thing all over again. It's the longest day you can have in the BOP. Yeah, man, that's crazy.
You know, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you know what I did see a lot of though, like when 2 cellies that had been cellies for a really long time, and one of them was leaving, almost inevitably, like they would get in a fight with each other like a couple days ahead of time because they didn't want to say goodbye. Do you know what I mean? They get in some kind of argument. My buddy Doss and his friend, and what's crazy, Doss is white and his buddy was black, and they were just really old dudes, old heads, and they got in a fight over a piece of bread. I can't remember. I just remember it was over bread. Like a piece of bread was short out of Doss's loaf, and he accused him, but Doss was leaving. And they didn't talk to each other until Doss left. Didn't even say goodbye to each other, but they walked the yard together probably for 20 years. It was something crazy like that. And so I did see that a few times where people would just, because they didn't want to feel that emotion, even though they probably still did, but they just didn't want to look at another man's eye and feel that sadness. I'm guessing,
I had a friend, like, so in the mornings in prison, you go down and you check the call outs to see if your name's on them. And it might say you got to go to shrink. It might say you got to go to the hospital, or it might say you got to go to a job interview or whatever.
Yep.
So I go down and I look at my step, and my ace deuce is listed to go to R&R, right?
R&D,
A&R, RT, whatever. So it's like, where you leave from? And I'm like, your name does not get on there for any other reason. So I peeled off, and I didn't even check that thing every day. I don't even know why I looked that day. But I went over, and he was in there with his little bag of crap getting ready to leave. And I went, you gonna toss me a goodbye? And he's like, yeah, I wasn't planning on it. And I was like, have a good one, bro. You know what I mean? Turned around and walked out. But a lot of people, they won't tell anybody they're leaving, and they just disappear, right? Yeah. You know what? Intimacy is difficult, especially between two guys in prison. It's but no, it's hard. I've told the story many times. When I was working in the kitchen, there was a dude who got his nose bit off. They moved him across the street to the USP at Terre Haute. He was one of the Moorish temple guys. So his last name's Bay, right? Yeah. And his first name was Johnson. And he had his nose was twice as dark as the rest of his face. I guarantee you saw him. But I watched that dude get his nose bit off. I was standing there when it happened. I watched. The guy went like this, grabbed him by the head. And the guy that did it, his name was Sergeant, black dude, big, like 7'2", right? And I thought he was kissing this dude. I swear to God, I thought he was going to put a lip lock on him. And they were arguing over a 7-cent chicken patty. He said, give me another chicken patty. He's like, screw you, man. You've had 3. And I run the kitchen. I go, dude, go grab a box, right? Who cares? Go grab a box and throw 15 of them in for him. Who cares? It's federal money. And he goes, screw that. He's already been paid. And I'm like, dude. And the running joke was, this dude didn't bite his nose off by accident. If you said to somebody, what's the deal with Jay? They'd say he puts his nose where it doesn't belong. It's what everybody said about the dude. So he went, and he just Hannibal Lectered this guy. And then and spit his nose underneath my desk. And it clipped him almost perfectly. There was a little bit on one side, but took it smooth off. He looked like Skeletor. You could look up inside of him. And you ever scare a cat or get a cat to where they're weird and their pupils go like this?
Oh yeah.
Jay's pupils went like this. Instantly, I watched it happen. And he looked at me and he went, Rock, he bit my nose off. I said, I got that.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then Drew Peterson, right? No crap. Drew Peterson grabs 3 pieces of tape paper towel, and he's under my desk. I go, what are you doing? He goes, get his nose. I was like, knock yourself out, brother. And he went up to him and handed it to him. And he's like, if you put this on ice. And I'm like, bro, there's no veins in the nose. They're not putting that back on. Right. Those are all capillary. If there were veins in the nose, I would have shot it. Right. I know where there's a vein.
Yeah, that's right.
I would have put a needle in it if there's a vein in your nose. I promise. It's all capillary beds. But they had to build. It was the craziest crap. For 3 months, he had a vein coming out of his forehead that was wrapped. So it just looked like almost a straw, the outside of a straw. Yeah. And it was a vein that went all the way down to his nose to feed blood to the new part they were growing on, which they took off his butt. And it was darker. So they ended up calling him Rudolph the Black-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
and this, you want to tell me this is an accident? I'm sorry. I'm not being, don't send me an email on this, any of you. But where they took it off, right here, just underneath his nostrils, grows an afro almost full time. Like it grows so fast that he has to trim it every day, or he just has this. He just has this little strip right here that looks like a Hitler mustache. I said to him one day, I said, hey, Jay, you need to shave that. And he goes, I need to shave the thing every 15 minutes. I was like, well, you got a nose, brother. They picked you. You got a nose. But of all the people in the entire BOP, he comes back to the unit. I guess it was because I saw him get chewed on, right? But he comes in and he's like, hey, Rock, you need to see this. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he starts unpeeling all the stuff off his nose. I'm like, I don't really need to. Oh, God, help us. Like when he got off, I was like, I got to go get my friend, bro, please. And he's free. He'll come on and talk about it occasionally. Every time he comes in the chat, he'll go, put his nose where it didn't belong. And you know how prison is, right? We're all locked and laying on our face. By the time they're done clearing the kitchen, everybody in my unit already knew what happened. So I come walking in and they're yelling from the door, was it really Jay? I'm like, yeah. Did he really lose a nose? I'm like, yeah. Like, you can't make this stuff up, right? You can't make this stuff up. It's an ugly place, people. If you take nothing away, you might want to miss. And before you could feel bad for this guy, I mean, he's doing life in prison, right? You almost had to feel sorry for him because he just was so unbright. I told the story before, but he said to me, he goes, they wanted to give me the death penalty. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. I go, and just good lawyer or what? He goes, well, it turns out I'm certifiable. And I went, say that again? He goes, I'm certifiable. And I go, I don't have any idea what that means, dude. It's not a word I'm familiar with. When he brings the paper over, he's certifiable, right? As in like, right, like he's certifiably insane or certifiably nuts or whatever. And I was like,
yeah.
Most people don't luck out and find out to be certifiable prior to getting the death penalty. Like, good for you, brother.
Yeah. They did put me in the shoe one time. They put me in with this old guy, and he's old, and he's got like this bag in there and just stuff that you're not supposed to have in the shoe. And I was like, man, what's all this stuff? And it was all like these diapers, like these used diapers. And I was like, oh man, what is going on? He's like, well, I've had this infection, and he's like pulls down his pants and he shows me like this infection on his junk, right? And I was like, has the nurse seen this? He's like, well, I just told him that it's leaking. They keep giving me that. I go, yeah, but has she seen it? And he's like, I don't think so. And I was like, dude, when they bring my meds tonight, she's gonna see that.
Right.
And he was like, I don't want to show. I'm like, dude, he's got to see that. So we show it to her, right? Instantly, they pull him out. They take him to the hospital. I pack all his stuff up, give it to the cop, and 4 days later, I have a single cell the whole time. 4 days later, they bring him back. And no, but before that, the lieutenant said, hey, I'm bringing old boy back. And I was like, okay. I was like, is he all right? And he's like, no, they amputated. They amputated his junk off. And he was getting out in 20 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was getting out in 20 days, and he had just did like, I don't know, like 18 years, 19 years. Could you imagine 20 days before you get out to get your junk amputated?
Well, you know what a kanika is?
No. I know what a fittable kanika.
Okay, well, the kanika, you know what marbling is?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the southern fellas call it a kanika, which I think means marble. If I'm not mistaken on that, I think it means marble. But to the uninitiated, what this means is these guys will take like a domino, right? Or
they call
a piece of
people
glass.
slayer. Yeah.
Right. And they take this piece of glass and they insert it into their foreskin. They will tear a hole into their foreskin and put a piece of glass or a piece of marble or whatever in there to let it heal up. The idea being women are supposed to enjoy this. Now, it doesn't work out that way at all. If you ever talk to a woman, they don't like it at all. But I'm having a conversation with the kid that I just got as a cellmate the first day, and he goes, I'm kind of hurting. I go, from what? He goes, man, I got one of those kanikas. And I go, oh, why would you do that?
I do remember that term now.
Yeah. I go, why would you do that? And he goes, chicks dig it. I go, have you met one that dug it? And he goes, well, no. And I go, so some dude told you they dig it and you decided to do this? And he goes, yeah. I go, you're going to get an infection and ended up losing that thing, right? You're going to end up losing that thing. And I gave this dude the blues for 2 weeks, bro. I mean, for 2 weeks. He would say, hey, did you get a score of that Lakers game? I don't know, man. How's your junk feel? Is that thing starting to infect yet? Like anytime he said anything, I got back to this Kanika. And I'm not gonna get demonetized, but I start listing all of these things that you might want to do with a woman that she's gonna be much less enthused about because of his. And it started to make sense to him, and he started going, damn. But he went to get this thing removed, right? And he came back and he said to me, he goes, it's out, dude. I was like, you okay, man? He goes, it hurts way worse getting him out than it's getting him put in. I said, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life, dude. But it's an epidemic in there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and chicks do not dig it. I've talked to girls about it, and they hate them. It's the appearance of it. It is some of the how it feels too, but they say it's the appearance of it. It looks deformed or like it's got like a tumor.
Like a tumor.
And yeah, and they don't dig it at all. But having said that, I have helped a few guys get that in. No homo,
No homo.
And yeah.
No Diddy.
And all the paisas called me Pito Slayer. That was my nickname. Pito Slayer. This was that. Hey, this will go along with our subject. This was that FDCC tag. I survived the MDC.
C-Talk's wild joint. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, Pito Slayer. Yeah, Pito Slayer. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a true story. I never saw anyone getting it done in the feds. Never saw it ever. But when I was in the state, when I was doing the fire camp thing, we had a communal bathroom. This is like 6 commodes, nothing in between them, just 6 commodes on the ground. And you go in there to go to the bathroom. So I go in, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I go in there because I got to use the restroom. And people are just going to look at you when you use the restroom. It's just how it works. So I'm sitting there doing my business. And there's a dude sitting on this toilet. And there's a guy with a rubber glove on. And he's holding the man's junk in his left hand. And he has a sharpened toothbrush in his right hand. And he's trying to poke a hole into the foreskin on this guy. And he keeps saying to him, I'm not joking. He keeps saying to him, hey, man, you got to relax, right? Because you're getting scared and it's disappearing. So he's basically pulling on this thing, trying to get this guy. And he's going, dude, you really got to relax. And you know the ass I am, right? Dude, so I'm sitting on this toilet. And I looked over at him and I go, what are you charged to do that? And he goes, beg your pardon? I'm like, you doing this for free? And he goes, no, three flat bucks. And I go, so $30 basically? He goes, yeah, give or take. And I go, can we do the same thing and not use the toothbrush? I said, I'll just give you $30 and you can tug on that rascal and you don't have to, stick it with a sharpened toothbrush. And he goes, I ain't gay. Said the man holding a man's penis in his left hand and telling him to relax.
Yeah.
And he did not take to it well at all. They had to separate us. He wanted to kick him back.
People, they get a little phobic, man.
You did this. You're holding a guy's junk. I didn't do this, man.
Yeah, dude. You brought this on yourself, brother.
Yeah. They will do stuff to people to mark them inside. They don't cut hairs off. They should. They don't. But they do like to put marks on people's faces. Very often, especially people that rat. There was a dude at there was a dude I knew,
50. They do that still. Yep.
That's no joke. I knew a guy that in fact I knew him from Terror. You might have known him too. He had the same name as Gomer Pyle. What's Gomer Pyle's real name? Jim Neighbors.
Jim Neighbors.
Jim Neighbors. And he was at Terre Haute. Yeah. He was at Terre Haute and he had this one. Both sides. They got him both sides. And they got him in the kitchen. I was actually there when he got cut. They got him in the kitchen at the FCI with the lids you take off of cans. Came up behind him and he looked like the Joker. And I remember the first day that I saw him at Terror, he came up and he's doing the, hey, how you doing? I was like, I don't know that I want to talk to you. Right? You kind of look like maybe you talk too much, and maybe that's why they did this whole smiling.
Do you know why they call it the $150?
Because if it were 300, it would go all the way around. Why do they call it the $150?
They call it the $150 because those straight razors back in the day only cost $1.50.
Oh,
yeah. I have a couple of them. They're vintage ones. Yeah,
I have a collection of those myself.
Yeah.
Probably because it's the most vicious thing that an inmate can own, right? A former inmate. Man. But you want a weapon of defense, they can't stop you from having that, and that is a main piece of operation. I don't know if you ever seen anybody get busy with one of those, but it is awful.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
In Canada, they call it a Skinner tag. I kind of like that.
Yeah. And the Bowery boys called it the mark of the squealer.
That's right, the mark of the squealer.
Yep. The Bowery boys.
So what happens to Diddy when he gives somebody when he gives an inmate an STD? Here's the thing. If Diddy gives an inmate an STD, it's going to be because that inmate was willing to be busy with Diddy. Diddy isn't going to be, he's not going to have a lot of GHB to slip into these guys' Kool-Aid, into the Jim Jones package. The Jim Jones packets. Yeah, it's Diddy. So I want to end with this, and then I will ask you your opinion on this. But the culture shock that Diddy's getting ready to walk into, you have no idea. Right now, he's in a place where they can absolutely protect him. They can get a unit that he's never going to leave and handpick 20 of the softest, I mean, like a bunny's ass, like medicated cotton, kind of soft, right?
Yeah.
And then they can throw high-profile inmates in with those guys. And those guys are rewarded because they should be sitting 24 hours a day in a cell alone. They're able to get out, walk around, see a TV, listen to radios, kind of act like they're in GP, except they're in a really small little, but it won't be long. It won't be long before he's out of there. And when he gets to the next yard, he's going to walk in there thinking, hey, where do I go with all of the people that are really kind and aren't going to do anything to me? And there's going to be a cop there to go, oh, yeah, those days are over, Slick. Those days are over.
There's going to be a lot of, pardon the term, nut swingers, possibly in where he's at right now. And, like just to say they were there with Diddy, and he's going to think that that's how it's going to be when he gets where he's going. And it's like you said, it's nothing even close, man. I wish I could be there.
In case you didn't get that reference to a nut swinger, it's kind of like an ass kisser, the same kind of thing. Like they're swinging off of his.
Hey, Diddy, I'm Johnny, from Chicago.
Exactly.
Whatever,
man. You were so awesome. Yeah. That first album you did. But my understanding is what everybody's saying is that's coming to an end, right? Even where he's at now, once the his cohort of sorts, once Luigi Mangione hit the prison or the yard, I guess, right? That's all anyone can talk about. And they dropped him in GP. That guy can walk in. Whether you like what he did or whether you don't like what he did, he shot a guy. That's an honorable crime as far as anyone else is concerned. So they could put him in GP.
Head held high.
Yeah. Not all, and they're probably styling this fool out, right? Yeah. Everybody's high-fiving him, right?
Yep. The cops are giving him respect.
There is no chance on God's green earth that anybody is taking Saul Palmetto. No. It would be great, but it is not allowed at all.
What is Saw Palmetto again?
It's a supplement that you can buy in the real world. It's like a million other supplements. The only one that you can buy inside that I am aware
of. Heard of it.
Yeah, you can buy a bunch of different vitamins, and then you can buy a multivitamin. But you're not buying aminos. You're not buying unless you get to a special. Some yards, every once in a while, you'll get to a yard, and there'll be people that will be they'll be ordering really different kind of stuff.
I've seen those animal packs at a spot, and I can't remember. It might have been Terre Haute. They were only there for like maybe 3 months.
Yep.
There was somewhere where there was weights. They were selling that. The animal packs. They got like an amino, whatever, a fat burner. Yeah.
Yeah. The Russ does night yard with us on Sundays. We were discussing federal how nice the facilities are in federal prisons. And I was interviewing Casper because of his the times he has been. Russ was a state inmate. He's done California time, but not done state time. Diddy is not going to a state facility. Not yet, anyway. Eventually, I think he probably will end up one after he gets tuned up at so many federal places. Or they're going to turn him into such a villain that they're going to put him in ADX. And I think that they could, like right now, today, they could probably justify sending him to the CMU, the Communications Management Unit, which is kind of like the SMU, except the only thing they're doing is make sure you can't call a shot. Your phone calls are monitored. You have a cop that's assigned to your phone, a specific cop. He listens to every single conversation. They did this with me and I almost said her name too, but me and my ex, the one that was a lawyer. I had a CMU designation. So I would be on the phone. And I remember on the phone once, and we were going in. I mean, we were married. We were a married couple, and we were arguing about something, and it was stupid. And I said, you know what? I am sick and tired of this shit. And the person on the phone went, if you don't calm down, I'm just going to disconnect the two of you. And I said, boy, you got to love that, don't you, girl? Yeah. A little backup for you here. I'm going to make sure that.
That's right.
Kanye's been calling out Diddy for a while. The problem with Kanye is he's listed in at least one of our allegations he was there for and participated in.
Yeah. What about Oh, I lost my train of thought.
Happens to the best of us.
Did somebody ask why it was just me on here tonight?
No, they just said, "Where's Russ?"
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you want to catch that, you got to see it on Sundays. Based on the food being crap in prison, I don't understand how some prisoners build muscles. That's a great question. Explain this to our friend Rick.
So for me, I've been 285 before. I'm about 220 right now, but I've been up to 285. A lot of muscle, a lot of fat too, though, is that I drink a lot of milk. You can get extra milk out of the chow hall, and tunas and mackerels.
And that's
tunas and mackerels. Every day before my workout, I would take 2 oatmeals, a big scoop of peanut butter, and I would dump a mackerel in it. I know that sounds totally disgusting, but it's not. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
And I would stir it up. Sometimes I put a little coffee in it. You know, it was a little harder with the coffee, and that would be my pre-workout or my after workout.
And then you buy stuff out of the kitchen.
Yeah, and you can buy sometimes you can buy protein powder out of the kitchen, or it's not protein powder. It's just that powdered milk, but there's a lot of protein in it.
Tons of it.
Yeah.
I used to buy that protein powder when we were in the SHU. It's all it is it's dehydrated milk, but there's so much protein in it, and we would just take 3 or 4 teaspoons for it before you started working out.
I remember it being pretty gassy though.
It was gassy as hell.
The powder out of the chow hall. I only drink it once or twice.
Yeah.
But it's funny, you know, all the workout guys are always like, "Hey, do you see that on there's 3 grams of protein in one of those bars that they're selling now?" And everyone's always looking for a new protein or lying about, "Oh man, I think there's 5 grams of protein, but it's incomplete, so you got to eat a piece of bread with it." And, everyone's got a different,
eggs. You buy 2 dozen eggs out.
I used to steal eggs all the time out of the chow hall. Yeah. I would wrap my entire body with eggs and just hang them in a laundry bag. And that's where I learned you didn't need to refrigerate eggs.
No, you can eat eggs for about 9 days. You don't have a problem.
Yeah. And I would eat a ton of eggs, man.
I ate a lot of eggs. Anytime I could get eggs out of the kitchen, that was my number one choice for protein. And I was good, guaranteed I was good for 15 of those milks a day. That was my entire rip. Yeah. Because you're not getting protein in the food that they give you, Rick. You really are not. And like when we were in Black Canyon, they sold mackerel fillets in soy oil. And they're tasty as hell. They're actually really good.
So good.
And then they sold jack mackerel, which is a much bigger version of the fish, except that's in water. And when you open that up,
in brine,
it smells like. I had a cellie, God bless him, old man, and I got in and he says to me, most cellies will say, "Hey, you're not a gambler, right? You're not going to be drinking and doing drugs. You're not going to be bringing people in." He looks at me, he goes, "You ain't one of those mackerel guys, are you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm probably going to be doing the mackerel." He's like, "I'll give you a couple of bucks a week if you buy the more expensive small ones, because they don't stink nearly as bad when you got them in the oil." And he was like, "I will buy that crap if you don't buy the jack mackerel." And about 1 out of every 8 bags of jack mac, you got a bad one.
Yeah.
But do you remember how much protein was in that bag? Because I will blow your mind. 1 bag of this was 49 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Those things were the business.
The Jack Mac was the one that still had the little backbones in it.
Yeah, you had to debone it.
Yeah. I remember somebody was making me a bowl of food like at least once a week with the Jack Mac, and he just didn't debone it, so you just kind of chewed them up. And
it's so gross.
It's pretty gnarly.
I would put the sweet and sour all over it, and then dump in. I would use the sweet and sour sauce, and I would dump in peanuts, about a half a bag. So when it was all said and done, it was like 65 grams of protein.
Yep.
And that was, I would do that and throw on top of it. I would take two ramens, and I wouldn't cook them. I would just pulverize them, and I would put them in there for crunch. And that was what my routine was. That's what I did all the time. And it was pretty foul.
That sounds good, man.
Yeah. I can eat mackerel every day of my life. I love mackerel. It does not bother me in the slightest, especially the mackerel that came in the soy oil. I love that. Guys would be guys had 800 ways to doctor that up so that it didn't taste nasty. I would eat that out of the packet. I had no problem.
Easily.
Loving it. I really did. If I found it on the street in the same containers, I would continue to buy it, but it would have to be in those little packets.
Yeah.
Stuff in the can doesn't taste the same way.
No, it doesn't.
Do you get regular medical checkups? Yeah, kind of. Sort of.
It just kind of depends. If you have a chronic illness, you'll definitely get a regular checkup.
Oh, you mean now on the street? Oh, yeah. I go to a doctor constantly. I'm at a doctor once or twice a week. I really am. But inside, no, they don't do squat for you inside. They bring you in so that they can say they took your blood pressure and did all of those things. But when I was at Victorville, we were on the lockdown. The warden had just been cut. And a good, solid white guy. He's about 55 years old at the time. Just a solid, good guy. And he went out for heart surgery, and he was on the second floor. He came back from open heart surgery his first day back, and they made him walk up the 3 flights of stairs to go upstairs. They wouldn't get him a downstairs cell after open heart surgery. And then they didn't bring him his medication. He was dead in the morning.
Jeez.
He was the 6th death in 5 days, and then the feds showed up, took over the yard. For real. It was so out of control there, dude. It was so out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they were undercrowded because nobody would walk the yard. No matter how many people they sent there, they're so afraid of Victimville that people wouldn't come out, right? Especially if you were even on the edge, you might have ratted or done something when you were 19, but guys just weren't coming in there at all, right? So there was, I had no cellmate. I was the happiest dude in the world, man. I had a single cell, right? No problem. And then after 2 people unalived themselves, one on K2 and one took his own life. And they said everybody has to have a cellmate. They would not allow anybody to live alone. And boy, it pissed a lot of us off, man.
Yeah.
Sardines. I was only on one yard that ever sold sardines. Most yards don't sell them. And even when they do, they're about 3 times as expensive as
mackerel.
Yeah, it's doing mac. I have sardines here. The problem with
sometimes
sardines is usually it's in a can, and those cans are dangerous as hell. They don't want you anywhere near them.
Yeah, and remember sometimes they sell the oysters too, the smoked oysters, like in Christmas time. Sometimes the Christmas list.
Yeah, the oysters are great. Yeah, I do like the oysters, but they only did it at Christmas. All right, I better get this thing wrapped up because I have someone else.
Oh, man, thanks for having me tonight, man. It's been awesome.
I love doing content with you, man. I had a really good time, and I'm tired of hearing everybody cry about how hard it is in MDC Brooklyn. I'll tell you what, fuck up, Buttercup. You got no idea what's coming. Do you think this is tough? You're doing easy time right now, doggy. Right?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear the stories.
Everything that makes MDC Brooklyn a problem, he ain't facing. Right? It's way overcrowded and there aren't enough employees. Well, he's in a unit with only a bunch of soft puppies, right? And they got more staff in that PC unit than any other. He's not feeling any of the problems the rest of the prison is. Right? They're all out there stabbing each other because there's too much dope on the yard. He's in this candy ass unit. He's not feeling any of it. It's going to get ugly for him, I promise.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, Casper, you're a gentleman and a scholar, and thank you for the
thanks for having me.
Doing behind the scenes. With working with Reese and with my brother. This is coming together, and I'm pretty excited.
I appreciate it, man. I feel blessed to be a part of the team. Absolutely.
You know what, man? The world works in mysterious ways. God does. It does, man. Seeing your daughter come on here today, I'm telling you, that was one of the hardest things I ever got through without crying. Thank God she doesn't take after you. She looks like she's a beautiful little girl.
All my daughters, my oldest daughter was a model and a ballet dancer, and all my daughters are gorgeous, man. None of them got the Frankenstein gene.
Yeah, I've been to Rikers, and I promise you it's worse than where he's at. Rikers has got 23,000 people in it, right? He's at MDC Brooklyn with 1,600 inmates at maximum capacity, over capacity 1,600. They're saying right now it's like 1,280 or something, right? Multiply that by 15 or 20. Rikers is one of the most savage county jails on planet Earth. It's hell. There'll be 50 or 60 guys in a holding cell that was designed for 5. Rikers ain't no joke. He wouldn't be doing as well in Rikers, I promise. All right, Casper, we will see you on the next one. People, I am the Admiral. Between now and the next time we see each other, reach out and try to save somebody. Good night.